Okay, we should be live now. If you can give us a 5 by 5 in the chat there, that would be terrific. We do not have our first guest in the house yet, so we're going to wait for about half an hour. Hopefully he shows up. Our next guest will be coming in 30 minutes. I'm not going to say the time because we're dealing with multiple time zones. But thank you, Kelly, for coming on. I appreciate your time. So we're
Thank
basically
you.
going to monologue here or dialogue for half an hour because Clyde was supposed to be in here, but he has not showed up yet. So we're gonna wait for him for about half an hour, and then hopefully our next guest will come in at that point in time in about 30 minutes. What I'm going to start off with tonight, you know what, let me first explain what the night is hopefully going to be, assuming that we do have our second guest at least come in. It is going to be a semi-structured debate where we're going to have people come in and share their theory about what happened to Charlie Kirk. It's not going to be my theory. It's going to be their theory, which is either the shot from behind, which is our first guest that has not showed up yet, or the federal narrative, actually, which is the Tyler Robinson 30-06 from the roof narrative. Someone will be coming in to present that theory. And it will first be, they will have 5 to 10 to 15 minutes to present their theory uninterrupted without any dialogue. And then there will be 15 to 30 minutes where I will sort of cross-examine and sort of interrogate their theory back and forth with them for about 15 to 30 minutes. And then we will go into an audience questions segment with that guest where you can ask them questions or I guess me questions, but primarily them questions for their theory. And Kelly will be setting the clock and saying, like, if the time is up, the time will be up. Hopefully we do get that other guest in here, but that will be the plan. And then with the second guest, I intend to share my theory. I have a new presentation to give specifically for him because I want to change his mind. I want to treat him as the jury, even though he's already set on a different narrative. But I think I can convince him. I'm going to try. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So I'll have about 10 minutes to do that uninterrupted. And then he will have 15 to 30 minutes to interrogate my theory, to cross-examine me on my theory. And then then we would have the Q&A from the audience. So that's
I'm really
the plan
looking
for
forward.
tonight.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to these, hopefully two guests, because on the X and Spaces sides of things, both of them are very vocal when it comes to their opinions and a disagreement, right? And I know, Jordan, that you love to talk to skeptics. So I think it will be fantastic dialogue.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do is bring on people. Like if I'm having a Twitter debate with you back and forth, a Twitter battle, sometimes I will ask you, I will open up a Twitter Spaces or an X Spaces, and we can just talk about it and have a conversation through voice instead of text because it's a much better form of communication. I want to talk to people who disagree. I don't want to write them off as crazy, as trolls, as stuff like that. I want to talk to people who disagree. If you think I'm wrong, I want to talk to you. I want you to tell me why. If I think you're wrong, I'd like to talk to you as well. I think we should have more dialogue, more discussion, not less, especially with the people who disagree. So as we wait for our first guest, who is Clyde Max, to answer that question, I'm going to give a brief summary of some of the latest work that I've been doing here. And I can actually pull up this here, maybe. I did not plan for this, but I should be able to find my other window here, perhaps, and go to my profile. I'm going to share my Twitter here, and we're going to go into this one. Okay, here we go. So one of the first updates I have, I don't think I've shared this live before or in any YouTube video. I figured out how to, I can't show the gun because I messed up last time. I can't show the gun. But I basically have a remote trigger on my little paintball gun so that I can use electricity and a computer to fire it. And that will be useful when I get out into a field and need an electronic computerized way to fire a rifle. It consists of stuff over here. I'm not going to bring it over right now, but you can see that video over here on into the top of my X where I'm demonstrating that wireless trigger system. That is another backpack. We have the Mikey McCoy's backpack for the synchronization between the squibs and the we have a message here. I think that's for something else. But we have the backpack for Mikey McCoy, and then we also have the backpack closer to the shooter on the roof, and we have DMX wireless show babies connecting the two together for the longer range communication. We also have a new test that I did with this valve here. This is a bicycle inflator CO2 valve. You twist this handle here, and it activates the valve and opens it. And I was able to drill out the little hole inside of this in order to make it bigger so it will let more gas escape, which is great. And the difference between this one and this one is this one on the bottom is metal, so it doesn't leak as much as the plastic one does. And I can also get direct access to the outlet there, and I can also open it up much faster and much wider than the plastic one. So that's the difference there. And what that does is it gives me much, much more power by dumping the canister much faster. This one will take like 10 seconds to dump the whole thing. That one will take like a couple seconds, like 1 second. It dumps 70% in like 1/3 of a second. So that gives me much more power, which also allows me to, and this was the goal here, but it allows me to use the very thin heat shrink tubing to get to the pendant, which allows me to actually disguise it under the shirt as we observe on Charlie Kirk. Previously, I was not able to get this to go powerful enough with the heat shrink tubing because it wasn't tight enough around the pendant. It would burst too fast, but it works much better now. So that's pretty cool. And I also have some gear coming with help from my GoFundMe. That gear should be coming Monday. That is the show babies that should allow me to go out into a field and remotely trigger a rifle. That's really the last thing that I need in order to do that at 140 yards range, which is pretty cool. But
By the way, here's the GoFundMe for anyone who has not seen it yet. Props to Jordan.
I'm going to trust her and that is the correct link. I'm sure it is, but I do like to verify that we're not sending to a random one. But yes, if it has my video on there. Yeah, so that's a very brief update on the work that I've been doing. I still do not have our first guest in here yet. We are at 8 minutes. So yeah, I have another real fast. I have another shirt coming, the Freedom shirt, the OG Freedom shirt. It did not have the white graphic goat logo on the back, and what I found out was like they printed the Freedom on it, and I know it's graphic goat because Charlie Kirk has the graphic goat logo on the back of the shirt. But when I went and ordered my graphic goat shirt with the text on it, it didn't have the white logo on the back. So I emailed them and asked them how come I didn't get the white logo? It was a pretty weird question because why would someone ask that? But anyway, I asked them why, and they told me that the only reason that shirt would have the white logo on the back would be because it was a sample order. Because when you order a sample order from Graphic Goat, you're just basically doing a size check. You order just one or two of them to check the fit in case you wanted to get like a whole bunch of them. So that appears to be what they were doing. They ordered the shirt and without the text on it, they ordered it through a custom print shop. without the text on it, which is kind of weird to me. But apparently that's what they did. I guess they have either a local print shop at near wherever Charlie Kirk lives, or like near the office, or maybe they have a custom print shop at the office. I don't know. But the supplier they ordered the shirt from, the custom print shop, is not the one who actually printed the shirt. But I have a new shirt coming, I think, tomorrow that should have the white logo. And I'll have to go to a local print shop near me that will put the logo on it. And it should be the right size this time. My last two were a little bit too big. And the text is going to be the right size now too. The text on the last one was a little bit too small. But Kelly, you wanted to go ahead?
Yes. Well, I was going to mention that actually Bays has become a little expert in his own right, I guess. He's been working on screen printing his own merch. So, it's apparently a pretty easy to pick up and affordable way to do it yourself. So, he's gotten to be pretty savvy at it if were interested in learning a little bit more about that. I don't know if that's what they did in Charlie's case, but just throwing that out there.
It could have been screen printing. The one that Graphic Goat does, I forget what the name of it is. I didn't study it for long enough, but it's
When I say
should really
screen
look
printing, it might not have been that. It could have been some kind of press or something, but
it was.
he's got a
I
little
wrote it down
system.
somewhere. It is called. Why don't you go ahead and talk about? You
And
wanted to talk
sure.
about the I forget his name. Some new guy in the case.
Yes. Well, I was
Joe
going to
Kent, I
bring
think.
up. Oh, what was that?
The Joe Kent. I think it's Joe Kent.
Yes. Yep. And some folks in the chat were also bringing up the Joe Kent situation as well. So I put that link in our chat. Let me go ahead and I don't know if is it easier for you to click on the link on your end, or should I just go ahead and load this in on mine to do a share screen? I can give it a try, and then you just
Let
tell
me
me.
go into this one now. Do you want to play this video?
Yep, and you can just play out the whole thing, and then we'll talk about it. So, you guys, as he's setting this up, if you haven't heard, Joe Kent, who was the head of the counterintelligence, just stepped down this week and had a kind of scathing, it's not often that a such a direct resignation letter that is so critical of the president and decisions that are being made is written and posted to Twitter and shared publicly. But Joe Kent did just that, and then immediately went ahead and is starting to make the rounds and tell his side of the story. So take it for what you will, direct from the man himself as he talks with Tucker Carlson.
Now, before we get into that, would you mind explaining for the audience and for me what
Sure.
how does this help us solve the Charlie Kirk case?
Okay, so as he's going to explain right off the top of this particular clip, he says that it'll be pretty self-explanatory, but his last interaction with Charlie Kirk was in the White House, and Charlie said to him, like just in the West Wing, maybe just outside the Oval Office, he looked at him and he said, "Joe, please don't let us go to war with Iran." And so, that's mighty. That's really stuck with him, of course, since given the situation that we are in right now. And then when after September 10th happened, there were multiple reasons why they felt the need to go track down additional information and look at, from the counterintelligence side, look at foreign intelligence leads and angles. And he was shut down. If some of y'all remember, there was this rumor or leak about Kash Patel shutting down any look into foreign intelligence involvement. So now we're hearing sort of direct from the horse's mouth the story.
And is he going to talk about that in this video?
Yes.
Okay. So to summarize, we are looking into this because it is relevant to the Charlie Kirk case. This is not a political commentary channel.
Yeah.
We're not going into this for the political commentary. We are solely looking into this for its relevance to solving the Charlie Kirk case. We're looking at this because this is the guy who apparently, allegedly, was blocked when he tried to investigate foreign ties to the Charlie Kirk assassination. And he, I guess, has witness testimony saying that Charlie Kirk had a certain position on the Iran war, which I suppose could potentially inform a motive for assassination or otherwise taking Charlie Kirk off the board. So with that context, we'll go ahead and play the video.
Very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis. And then he's suddenly publicly assassinated and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that. It's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
What do you mean when you say we're not allowed to ask any questions about that?
We've been told that this individual, Robinson, is a lone gunman, and maybe he is. But the investigation that I was a part of, the National Counterterrorism Center was a part of, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. And the FBI will say that they stopped that because they wanted to turn everything over to the Utah state authorities. Everything's going to trial. It's very, very sensitive. But there was still a lot for us to look into that I can't really get into. But there was still linkage for us to investigate that we needed to run down. And I'm not making any conclusions. I'm not saying
no, I don't think you are.
Because of this happened. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's unanswered questions. We know the pressure because of the text messages that have been made public, that Charlie was under a lot of pressure from a lot of pro-Israel donors. And again, we know Charlie was advocating to President Trump against this war with Iran. And we knew at the end of the 12-day war, at the end of Midnight Hammer, that the Israelis were going to come back and ask us to go back to war again.
Right.
So we have a lot of data points between Butler, the assassination attempts against President Trump, the breaches of his security, what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Can I just ask you to pause on the Charlie Kirk because it upsets me to hear what you're saying, to be reminded that he was murdered, but also to hear you confirm what was reported in the media several months ago, that your office had been blocked from investigating his murder. That does not make sense to me. I don't understand why you would ever turn down help in an investigation from a U.S. agency with a lot of experience in gathering intelligence on things. That's your job.
The FBI will say, and the DOJ will say, that because it's an ongoing case, it's a Utah state case, that back off, they've got it. They've got a smoking case. They've got the fingerprints on the gun, and they've got the case.
But the FBI was involved in the case.
The FBI was involved. The FBI's basically said that they're deferring to Utah because it's now a state case.
But they've established a precedent for federal investigation of this crime.
Yeah, and the National Counterterrorism Center's mandate is to investigate any foreign ties, to see if there's potentially any foreign ties. If we don't find any foreign ties, we back off. What I'm saying, about getting into too much detail, is there was more for us to investigate.
You believe there was reason to investigate foreign ties to Charlie Kirk's murder, and were told by the FBI, DOJ?
FBI and DOJ, yeah.
No, you're not allowed to investigate that.
Stop. It's done. They basically cut off our access to be able to get into that information. And look, I didn't even say necessarily that I believe there's 100% foreign ties. There were data points that we needed to investigate. I mean, I think anybody who's even, looked at any kind of police investigation, you get 100 leads, you run them down, and 99 don't mean anything. We still had a lot more leads to run down that pertained to some kind of a foreign nexus that we were stopped from investigating. And,
that just strikes me as inconceivable that could happen.
So my questions are, when I first heard that story about them not being able to get access to whatever, I think it was the CIA or someone, or Tulsi Gabbard wanted to do
Yes,
it.
which
Who
she would
tells?
be over him.
Yeah, who is going to tell the CIA they can't do something?
Right.
They should be able
They
to do
should be,
whatever they want.
you would think so, right? But Cash, for whatever reason, Cash Patel, I mean, I guess essentially he would be considered an equal, and he exerted his power saying, well, we're the ones who actually have the case in conjunction with the state of Utah currently. You guys don't officially have it. So mind your own business, stay out.
Well, CIA is an intelligence agency. It's not a criminal investigate. It's not a prosecutor. It's not a legal. It's not their intelligence, and they hate each other, from what I understand. They don't like to play ball with each other. I just don't understand why Cash Patel would have any authority over them.
I think a lot of things are in the current administration, and plenty of administrations are done non-traditionally and don't follow the rules, you know?
Yeah, my initial impression on that story was that it was fake. I do not think that the FBI is capable of telling the CIA what to do. I figured I came to believe that this whole story was just being sent to Israel, or being sent to somebody to make them think that, oh, we're not investigating that, just sort of as propaganda. That was my initial read. I didn't do a ton of research into it, but that's what I thought was going on when I first heard it come out.
I wonder if it could be that they wanted to keep the more eyeballs and hands out of looking into it, out of fear that they would catch that it was fake. And someone would, you know, open their mouth and it would get out.
Someone asked, why are we, like, who are we debating? We're not debating anyone right now. We're supposed to be not debating, but talking to Clyde, but he has not showed up yet. He was supposed to show up a while ago. He just reposted my Twitter post, so maybe he thinks that maybe he got the time zone wrong. I did tell him the time zone. He's supposed to be in here, or I asked him to be in here, and he said he would be. But that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. But we decided to go live anyway because I don't like it when live streams just delay and delay and delay. So that's why we're talking about not random stuff, but sort of off-topic stuff right now. We're just kind of wasting time, not wasting time, but we're filling time until our next guest is scheduled to come on at 8:30 my time. So in about 7 minutes is when the next guest is due to come on. And that's when we're going to get into the federal narrative. He's going to be supporting the federal narrative. And then there will be some back and forth. But that's why it says debate somewhere, I think. I think it says debate somewhere, or live presentations and debate, I think is the title. But that's why we're not actually debating right now, because we had someone not show up, at least not yet. So that is the reason why. Okay, so we played that video, and so how is this relevant to the Charlie Kirk case? We think that someone was blocked getting investigatory access to foreign ties, which could inform. I don't know how to interpret that in the context of trying to solve the case. And then we have the motive, where I guess Charlie Kirk said that he did not support war in Iran. I actually just listened to a video of Charlie on his podcast where he said, last time we bombed Iran, I think it was the nuclear bunker one. I think that was the context, but there was a video clip of him saying that he supported the president in that bombing and that he was not against it. And I guess that was being used to suppose that he would support the current activity as well. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for him. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I think this scenario is much different from the last scenario over there. But again, this is not a political commentary channel. I'm not a political commentator. We're only discussing this for its relevance to the Charlie Kirk case. Do you see any new clues with this new information that can help us solve the case, Kelly?
Well, I think that the part of that, for one, was relevant because it seemed like, in my mind, it seemed like, Trump has a super close relationship with Cash, and even Charlie, I think, had a close relationship-ish with Cash and Bongino, right? And so if the belief that I think we believe is that Charlie was able to exit stage right, that he would be able to trust them more so than a whole host of people. The more people that you allow to get into the investigation and have eyes on the files, then the more you've opened up yourself for potential exposure. So to me, that yeah.
My question to that would be, wouldn't the CIA have a completely different context that they would be starting from? Like, they have all of their own tools. They have all kinds of other tools at their disposal that wouldn't be directly linked to the case that the FBI has. It seems like they're completely separate agencies.
Well, one thing to clarify, though, is that the CIA is not only is it a different agency, but it is a different agency from the National Counterterrorism uh, Counterterrorism Center, and so that falls under the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, I believe, ODNI, and so all of these acronyms that aren't that we didn't all, I don't know if they've existed always, but certainly aren't common vernacular for many folks. So there's different lines and divisions, right? And I guess people get to throw weight around at certain times.
No, I'm saying that, like, from my perspective, I think that they're completely different agencies, the CIA and FBI. I'm not educated on that, so I'm not going to pretend like I know what would or would not happen. I've never worked at the FBI, never worked at the CIA. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just going off of what
here we go. Clyde's in. Awesome.
I see James May, our next guest, is here. He says he just got, I guess, into his account. We were supposed to go live with Clyde at the top of this, but we have both of them in now. But James May was scheduled for basically right now. So we're probably going to start with him since he is here. I don't know if Clyde is going to enter or not, but why don't we go ahead and invite James May in and let him start. And then if Clyde shows up later, we can go to him afterward. Does that sound like a good plan? Am I muted? I don't think so. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And okay, let's bring him into the stage. I think you are here now, Mr. May. Can you hear us and can you speak?
Yeah.
Oh, let me bring you back in. There we go. And let me go into this one. Add you there. I have to add you on every single stage. And okay, now you're in here. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time.
No problem.
Okay, so what I said at the top of this episode of this live stream was I want to talk to people who disagree with me. I think that we should not write people off as trolls, as all these different negative labels, who disagree with us, who believe what I might think is a crazy theory, what someone else may think is a crazy theory. I think we should have more dialogue, more discussion, not less. especially with the people we disagree with. So what I wanted to do today was give you an opportunity to present what you believe physically happened to Charlie Kirk and why. And so we'll do that for 5 to 10 minutes. You'll have the floor uninterrupted. And I'm going to ask Kelly to keep track of the time. I will as well. And so you'll have the first 5 to 10 minutes, to 15 minutes if you want it, but I think you indicated otherwise, to present what you believe about the case and why. And after that, I will have 15 to 30 minutes to not interrogate you, but sort of cross examine and ask some critical questions about your theory. And then after that, I will present my theory to you, if I may. And in a sort of like a monologue, sort of like an opening statement in the court, but not really, because I'm not really talking about burden of proof, really. So I'll present my theory, and then you'll have the opportunity to sort of interrogate me on my theory. And then hopefully we can do some audience questions that Kelly will collect throughout the night. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Your time will now begin to present what you believe about the case and why. Go ahead.
So what I believe is we don't know exactly what happened just yet. We won't know exactly what happened until the trial rolls around. And, the reason being is the only people that are entitled to this information at this current stage are the prosecution and the defense. Now, everybody's saying, why don't they just release everything? Why don't they just release everything? That's not how cases work, how court works. Like, people think that just because you want something, you get something. That's not how court works. Just because you ask for a court document doesn't mean you're going to get the court document. Just because you ask for the evidence doesn't mean you're going to get the evidence. This happens in divorces. This happens in uh, child abuse situations, things like that. So, we're not going to have everything right now, but it will be presented in trial. So, having said all that, what we do know is that Tyler Robinson has confessed 4.5 times, and my good friend Kelly has pointed out that he implied to his uh, parents that he had, killed Charlie. So 4.5 times. So the Discord messages, the text message, the written note, people say the written note doesn't exist. Lance took a picture of the note, and I'm pretty sure that'll be admitted into court. Um, Implied it to his parents. Um, am I missing some of them? So anyway, 4.5 times. I can run them down later on, but 4.5 times he's confessed. His DNA is on the gun. People have said that his DNA is mixed with 5 other people. That's fine. It's an heirloom gun that's been admitted by the parents. So of course other people's hands are going to be on the gun. All we need to prove is that he has access to the gun. We have his DNA on the gun. We have fingerprints on the ledge. We have fingerprints on the gun. Once again, doesn't necessarily mean that he was there, but when you start scaffolding it with other things, it starts to make sense in regard to him being the killer. We also have evidence and video of him walking up the stairs. His parents said, "Hey, that's my kid." His friend said, "Hey, that looks like you." Two different people or two different groups of people have said that it looked like him. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean it was him, but when you start scaffolding and start building it with other things, it starts to add up. We also have video of him walking to the site, walking away from the site. We also have video of him in a car, driving away from Orem. We also have, man, we have enough evidence to build a case with just what we know. And like I said, we don't know everything, but from what we know, we can build a case based on what we have available in the public. Now, I think I've got some time, so I'll talk about some of the conspiracies that we have. We've got Israel and Mossad and all these other things. And my first thought is, okay, if you're going to make these outlandish claims or these claims that he's involved with international governments, you got to have some kind of proof. And if the only proof you have is that Charlie was, you know, cooling toward Israel, that doesn't really amount to much. Yeah, he had probably cooled toward Israel, but at the same time, he had written a book about, the Sabbath, and has always been a really big champion of Israel. So if you have a guy who's a really big champion of Israel, even though he had been cooling towards them, it doesn't make any sense to get rid of the guy. It makes more sense to go to the guy and say, hey, you know, you were really on our side previously. What can we do to mend that relationship, knowing that he's been so kind and so favorable toward Israel? We also have people saying that it wasn't the bullet from the gun and or from that rifle, and people saying that it was an exploding lapel mic. For that to work, we have to have Tyler Robinson get up on the roof, or somebody that looks like Tyler Robinson get up on the roof, have the gun up there, shoot the gun, and have the exploding mic explode at the exact same time as that guy jumping down from the roof. And I think everybody agrees that there's a person jumping down from that roof at that moment. So all of that has to work at exactly the right time. And it's just too exotic of a method to do it. It makes more sense if you're going to get rid of the guy, poison him like they did in Russia. They've done that to several, important people. They just poison the people while they're eating at a cafe and, random places. We also have people saying there's a drone. Uh, again, a person on the roof jumping down with what appears to be a gun, finding a gun, a bullet, Tyler confessing to his, all of that stuff has to work at the exact same time as a drone flying. And it's just so exotic that there's just too many hurdles for it to clear for it to make sense. Um, some people have said that Charlie's not dead. I I just can't. That's a non-starter for me. It just makes no sense. I don't know where they get the fact from that from, but if you're going to prove that he's still alive, or if you're going to say he's still alive, you got to prove that he's still alive. And I haven't investigated a whole lot of time into that because it just sounds ridiculous. So uh, that's everything I think I've laid out. There's a bunch more evidence that just kind of came to mind while I was speaking that I left out, but I'll let you have the floor.
Would you like more time? You can. I think
You're at
you're
six and
still
a
well on
half.
your time.
Yeah.
Nah, I think I might have covered everything. I mean, you know,
Okay.
have at it.
All right. So now we're going to enter into, I guess, the cross-examination segment. Hey, James, what happened to Charlie Kirk?
He was shot.
Okay. How did you determine that?
There's several things. So we've recovered a bullet fragment in his neck. We won't know exactly the path of the bullet. We kind of know the path of the bullet based off of what's been released, but I can tell you that whenever there's been an accident in my family and I'm getting things secondhand from my family, it's never 100% accurate. So we won't know exactly the path the bullet took, but we do know that there was a bullet. There's a fragment that has been found. I think it's only one fragment that's been found. And there's a gunman that we see, you know, jumping down off of a roof and running. And then there's a gun that's been found in the same area. So, you know, that's what I based that
Okay.
off of.
You're making the claim that a bullet fragment was found inside of Charlie Kirk. What's the source of that claim?
That's been released. I've looked it up it's been widely released.
What's the original source?
The original source, I found it on the Post Millennial. I found it on Utah, like local Utah news. They've released it.
Are those reliable sources of information?
They're releasing what the court documents say.
So what's the
So,
original source of this claim?
I guess the Utah. I couldn't find the original source. I just know that I tried to find it, but I just know that the people that have accessed or have seen it have said that there's been a bullet fragment found inside of Charlie.
Okay. You made the claim that Tyler Robinson has confessed 4 times. What did he confess to?
No, he confessed 4.5 times.
Okay, 4.5 times. What did he confess to?
I had to
So
get James on that one.
yeah, you got me on that one. He confessed to killing Charlie. In the Discord chat, he said, "Say that they were joking around and saying that looks like Tyler," and Tyler, said, "Oh, I guess it does." And then later on, he said, "Hey, guys, it was me." Um,
What does that
he can.
statement mean? It was me.
It was in the context of them talking about it because originally in that Discord chat they said it looks like him, and he says, "Oh yeah, kind of it does." And then I believe later on he came back and said, "Hey guys, I need to let you know it was me that was involved in that situation." That like he didn't come out and say, "Hey, I shot Charlie." He kind of came out and said, kind of like when a kid gets in trouble, they don't want to tell you that they hit their brother or something like that. They say something like, uh,
Okay.
they kind of danced around it, but basically confessed. He implied to his parents that he had killed Charlie. The family friend as
Okay,
well
hold on.
was
Hold on.
there.
Let's stay on the current question. Are there any other possible interpretations of his statement, "It was me"?
Uh, I don't think so. No.
Is it possible that he meant it was me in the photo that they were discussing?
Yeah, yeah, that was me. That was me that did it.
Is that what he said though? It was me that did it, or it was me in a context of them discussing a photo?
He told Lance that, yeah, I did it, and this is why I did it because his hate can't, be allowed to be around. So
Well, we're
if you want to
discussing
say that,
the group chat, not what he
I'm
told
sorry.
Lance. We're discussing the group chat.
Okay, that's fine. So if he says, I'd have to like pull up exactly what he said in the group chat, but if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, he just basically said it was me that shot Charlie.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's your interpretation that you're adding on to the end of that. But what he actually said was it was me, and it's ambiguous what that actually meant, in my opinion. Let's go to his confession towards Lance Twiggs. What
hmm
is the original source of that confession?
I believe that's on the text message.
Okay, how do we know what if that text message chain exists or what it actually says?
How do we know it exists?
Yeah,
Is that what
what's
you're
the
asking?
original source? Yeah, what's the
That's
original
in the
source?
that's in the charging documents.
How is it presented in those documents?
It was presented, you know, Lance, Tyler, and then what they said.
Are you aware of what a typical format for text messages and legal documents might be?
No, let me know.
Okay. In your opinion, does the format, I can't ask that because there's no foundation. Um, in your opinion, as just a normal human being, does the penmanship of those text messages appear authentic?
Um, so this is one where people like to say they're not talking like actual people, and I gotta say, I was an educator for a while, and I've been around kids, and some kids are flipping weird. Some kids talk so weird, and it, if you've seen the video of Tyler whenever he gets into the car accident and he's talking to the police, he kind of actually he comes across to me as a student that would or a kid that's autistic. So in the way that he talks and what he was into, Yeah, it seems pretty plausible that, he's a weird kid who talks weird and texts weird.
Okay. You said that there were 4.5 confessions. What were the other 2.5?
So let me run him down again. So there was his parents, the family
Okay, let's
friend.
talk about the parents. What statements do we have on record from the parents?
I'd have to look at the charging document.
Is that the original source?
I believe so, yes.
Do we have them on video or an audio claiming that they heard Tyler Robinson say anything?
We won't have that until the trial starts. Like I said, it's one of those pieces of evidence we don't have just yet.
Okay, so they've made no public statements. Would you agree?
They've made no public statements
Okay. What's
that I'm
the
aware
next
of,
one
actually.
that you're aware
Uh,
of? What's the next one?
so there's the parents, there's Lance, there's a Discord chat, there's a family friend,
Okay,
and then
Lance.
yeah,
Has Lance made any public statements?
not that I'm aware of. No,
Has any family member or associate of Tyler Robinson made any public statement alleging Tyler Robinson has made a confession?
not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay. Let's go to the gun, or I would say a gun. The authorities recovered a rifle at around the location of UVU that day. What gun did they recover?
I believe it was a Mauser.
Okay. What relevance does that gun have to the case?
It's the weapon. It's kind of like Clue. You got to have the place, the person, and the weapon, right?
Okay. Why should we care about that rifle and not some other rifle?
So the rifle that was found, it tracks the path that that person that jumped off the roof would have had to go through in order to ditch the rifle.
Does the rifle itself bear witness to where it moved to and from?
Now, say that again.
Can you look at the rifle and figure out where the rifle physically was?
That might you might be able to if it's on a roof and you've got like gravel or any kind of like tar or anything like that, and any of that rubs off on it, you might be able to find traces of that. If you look at the rifle and there's like scratches or something like that, and it catches some of the paint that's on the edge of that roof, that might be on the gun. So there are ways that you can link a specific weapon to a specific place. I'm not aware of that being released just yet.
So, is there any public information like you just gave examples for that would tie that rifle to a specific rooftop?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Why do you personally think that rifle is relevant to the case?
Why do I think that rifle's
Yeah, like why is
because
it that rifle and not some other rifle?
uh because that rifle in particular follows the path of him leaving.
How did you determine that?
We have video evidence of a person leaving in that general direction from the roof.
Okay, so you're saying that Tyler Robinson or the person on the roof walked in a general direction in the general direction of where that rifle was found?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And what did the person on that rooftop do?
So, because you've been asking me a lot of these questions, and so specifically, the suspect got into a shooting position, climbed over a railing, then dropped onto the roof slightly below. Uh, he walked to the suspected shooting position and confirmed okay. And there's markings on the gravel rooftop consistent with the sniper having lain on the roof, impression in the gravel elbows and knees in the prone position. So, yeah,
Are you reading from, what are you reading from?
that's from the charging document.
Okay, perfect. Just so that we're all aware that what you're getting that information from. Perfect. Did the person in that position take a shot?
You know, from all available evidence, we can be led to believe that, yeah.
What evidence?
The person that was on that roof took a shot. Well, why else? Why? There's no other reason for there to be elbows and knees on a roof, consistent with being laying prone to, and then finding a rifle, from somebody jumping down from the roof and running in that general direction.
Okay. Let's say that a shot was taken. How do we know where the shot was pointed?
Well,
Was it up into the sky? Was it into the lake?
well, what we can basically, so if you have point A and point B is, 2 steps in front of you, I mean, logically, you say, well, you have to take the 2 steps to get there. So there was somebody laying on the roof. We've got evidence of somebody being laying and prone. Charlie suffers a bullet wound in the neck. We also have somebody leaving from that specific area. We don't know exactly. Like, you can't ever know, but you can fill in the gaps. There's no reason for anybody to be on the roof at that specific time, leaving from that specific time. Charlie has a bullet wound in his neck. We find a gun. I mean, there's always going to be gaps when you're looking and when you're investigating a case. But you're gonna be able to fill in the gaps based off of everything and the totality of everything.
Does it look like Charlie Kirk was hit by a bullet?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what happened to the necklace Charlie Kirk wore?
No, I do not.
What what was its final position before he fell completely to the ground?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Um, you previously stated that Tyler Robinson was ID'd by his family. How did you determine that?
That's in the charging documents.
Did they also ID the rifle?
I believe he sent a photo to his family, or they asked for a photo of it. In terms of like identifying the photo or not photo, identifying the gun in the video or anything like that. Not that I'm aware that I don't know anything about that, but I do know that they asked for a photo of the gun
From whom?
from Tyler. They were saying, "Hey, what happened to the gun? Send us a picture of the gun." And I believe he kind of was like, "Well, no, I can't do that." Or there was something weird. I have to look back at the charging document. I do know they requested a photo of the gun to make sure that he had it and he hadn't like ditched it or anything like that.
How did Would you agree that the parents ID'd the rifle in the news as a family heirloom?
Oh yeah, okay, all right. So here's one that's so I got into an argument with somebody about this, and they were like, "How do you know?" Like the media released this photo of the gun, and then the family said this, that, and you're kind of implying that the media or the gun isn't the actual gun. Uh, what I think happened, and I have nothing to back this up. Um, I believe that the media had a source that's close to the situation, and they said, "Hey, Charlie died and or was shot," and like, what happened? And the guy was like, "Yeah, he got shot with this gun," and that can mean two things. It can mean this exact gun or a gun that looks like this. So what I believe happened, like I said, I have nothing to back this up. What I think happened is somebody in the media was like, "Hey, Charlie got shot. What happened?" Or and they said, "Yeah, it was this gun," and they sent him just a photo of a gun, and the guy ran with it, thinking that it was the actual gun. Um, Guns all kind of look the same. I mean, unless you get something like tricked out. I mean, it's going to be all black or have a wood handle. I mean, a gun is a gun. Like, there's not really that much variations in guns. So I believe that they just identified it because their gun
Identified
looked
what?
like that gun. They identified the gun
Identified
that was in the media. The gun that was in the
the gun that
media.
was in the media.
Yeah,
Okay.
they identified
Where
that
did
and said, "Hey, that looks like our gun."
okay.
Or I
And
should
what
say,
photo the photo of the gun in the media,
yeah,
what was that photo? What was the origin of that photo?
I believe it was a Google stock image or something like that.
Yeah. Is that the rifle that they identified as being theirs?
Yeah. So, like I said,
Okay.
if I have, an iPhone and then somebody's like, "Hey, you know, what kind of phone do you have?" And I just go on Google and say, "I got this phone." That's not my
So
phone. That's a photo of a phone. And then if
sure.
somebody came in and said, "Is that your phone?" Like, no, no, this isn't my exact phone. This is my phone. So I believe that the
Okay.
family just looked at it and said, "Hey, that looks like the gun that we have at home."
Okay. Do you have kids?
Got I don't want to answer
Or
that one.
if you don't want to answer that, that's fine. Okay. What I was going to say is, I'm not going to say that because this is cross. Um, Previously, you said, because I wrote this down, you
Hmm.
said Charlie Kirk, because he's such a strong supporter of that country in the Middle East, they would never want to remove him from the board because he's such a strong supporter of them. But is it possible for Charlie Kirk to abandon his support for that country?
Yeah, it's possible for him to abandon his support. Yeah,
Okay.
but
Um,
what I believe it's likely, probably not, just because of his religious beliefs. He said, I believe before that, he's quoted the Bible verse. If you those that bless Israel, God will bless you, and in Genesis, that verse. And what I believe is, I don't believe his religious beliefs in that regard would have changed so much that he would have abandoned Israel.
is there any evidence that he abandoned that support?
No, there's no evidence that he's abandoned that support.
Okay. Kelly, would you like to ask any questions or no?
You guys are doing a phenomenal job, Jordan. I was tempted to chime in and supplement with, the facts from the indictment and the probable cause statement, but I can do that in a different round if you want. But I do have those
Yeah.
pulled up if we need it. But yeah, we're at 20.
Uh,
We just hit 20 minutes. So
okay. What I
Loving
would
the bun,
like
by
to
the way.
do,
thank you.
what's that?
He was my sloppy hair.
Oh,
I was sick.
I
So
made you blush.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, thanks.
all right. We're going to move
um,
into the next segment here because I didn't prepare like I'm a lawyer, like a whole bunch of questions. I'm kind of winging it here
Oh,
with
Jordan, I'm
the
so
questions.
sorry. Can I interrupt you for just a moment? There have been a couple of requests to have the chat on the screen, but I didn't know if that was going to be distracting to you. So I wanted to wait until there was a break for me to ask you that. So,
I prefer not to
okay.
because the format of this, I don't
Yep. No
think,
problem.
well, you know what? That's okay. We can do that. If it's distracting, we can take it off. I don't see any reason. If people are asking for it, that's fine. And I can just make the graphic accommodate that better later. But we will move into the segment where I will present my view of the case, not necessarily my full theory, but my beliefs, my presentation here. And then James will have the opportunity to do what I just did for his theory and sort of cross-examine, ask some critical questions, and dissect it and find out if there are any flaws. So I will go ahead and do that now. I'm going to move this over here. I have to get my screen set up. So just give me one moment, please. I'm going to close this one out and close this one out and pull up my PowerPoint here and pull up my little script here because I did write a script. So I will go ahead and begin now. All right, the government does not get to tell us what happened to Charlie Kirk because we have it on video. We can see exactly what happens to Charlie Kirk. When someone gets shot in the neck, their neck expands, their necklace breaks in the back and falls, and a hole forms in their neck. What we see happen to Charlie Kirk is something punching him in the neck from under his shirt. We're going to play this video here.
This is frame 1, frame 2, frame 3.
Is that audio playing? I think it is.
The chain is broken and out. This is frame 1, frame 2.
We're not seeing it yet.
3.
Oh, you're not? Oh, I forgot to
no.
switch it. Let me switch it real fast. Find presenting solo. There we go.
There we go.
Now I am going to remove the chat. All right, there we go. Play that from the beginning.
This is frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. You can already see that the chain is broken and out. This is frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. You can already see that the chain is broken and out.
James, I should have asked this before. Are you able to see the screen? Oh, he's not added to this stage. Now he should be back. Can you see the screen, James?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I will continue. Now I'm going to switch the slide. There we go. All right. If Charlie Kirk's neck were here and could speak for itself about what happened, would it say something from in front of me struck me, or would it say something from under the shirt jumped out and struck me? Well, the frames visible here clearly show the latter. Public inquiry into this case discusses the specific bullet caliber and the lack of an exit wound. This is interesting, but not conclusive. Can we reproduce a 30-06 stopping in ballistics gel the width of a human neck? No. Have we tried every single type of 30-06 known to man and still failed? Pretty much. But does that prove Mr. Kirk wasn't shot by a 30-06? No. There we go. Because there is always a remote possibility, no matter how unlikely, of an edge case where a 30-06 may not have an exit wound. Maybe the round was underpacked, maybe it tumbled, maybe it was a varmint round, maybe some combination thereof. Can I prove it wasn't a 30-06? No. What jumped out of the shirt and hit Mr. Kirk in the neck? It seems likely it was the cross pendant on his necklace. His necklace also launched upwards and backwards over his head. When we tried to reproduce that using a bullet into ballistics gel, it broke the necklace in the back and it fell down and forward, not upwards and backwards into the neck. Can I prove it's impossible to use a bullet cavitation to get the necklace to behave the exact opposite way that we see in 2 field tests? No, I can't prove that. The only words I can use to describe the official narratives are words and phrases like unlikely, inconsistent with observations, not supported by experimentation, and could not reproduce. We cannot say disproven. There are 2 positions we can take. 1, Mr. Kirk was struck by a bullet coming from directly in front of him. And what words describe this theory? Inconsistent with observations, not supported by experimentation, and could not reproduce. This theory dwells in the magical physics land of the elusive edge case. Can't see it, can't find it, can't reproduce it, can't demonstrate it, but cannot rule it out conclusively. The other position we can take is 2. Mr. Kirk was struck by an object coming directly under his neck from under his shirt. Now, can this hypothesis be seen, found, reproduced, or demonstrated? First, let's consider a preponderance of the evidence regarding the gunshot wound theory, particularly the theory of the lone shooter effectively working alone. Is there any evidence that a larger plot was underway? Does it seem like everyone around Mr. Kirk was acting normally and did not expect a shot to ring out? Well, once again, I can say no, but I can't prove it. What we observe is security personnel performing what appears to be hand signals the instant before the shot, a staffer ducking the instant before the shot, and a senior staffer walking calmly away instantly after the shot, and many more hand signals in the brief seconds leading up to the shot. Now, is this evidence of coordination? Not conclusive evidence, no. I cannot prove to you that any single one of those people or behaviors specifically were definitively evidence of coordination, because you can dismiss any single one of them as a coincidence or biased interpretation. But I believe we should start with the evidence and let it lead us. I think that in totality, we see enough odd behaviors within the single second before and the single second after to say the more likely explanation is coordination. Preponderance of the evidence tells us there's more to see here than a lone shooter 140 yards away working effectively alone, or that no one around Mr. Kirk had any idea what was happening. The evidence is most consistent with they knew exactly what was happening before, during, and after. Not because of any single clue, but the totality. Which brings us to demonstration. Can we demonstrate what we observe under the shirt by other means? Well, I'll let you be the judge. Here's what I will not say. I cannot state Charlie Kirk is alive. I cannot state it was a blood gag. I cannot state that the official narrative is wrong. But here's what I can say. I'm testing a hypothesis. My hypothesis is that the death was fake. And my hypothesis currently reproduces most observables. So in this slide here, this is the end of my scripted segment, we have 0 milliseconds, 16 milliseconds, 32, 48, 64, 80. These are frames on the 60 frames per second video, starting at the moment right before impact or right before the event, going up to 6 frames into the event. At the top, we see his side profile from his right, and we see the necklace behavior. I will not describe it for you. You can come to your own conclusions about what is happening there. Directly beneath that is another video at 60 frames per second at 0, 16, 32, 48, 64, 80. And in that video, I am attempting to reproduce the movement that we see above it on Charlie Kirk's chain. Directly under that, we have another video of Charlie Kirk showing the shirt behavior of his shirt during the shot. This skips every other frame because it was filmed at 30 frames per second and not 60. So we have missing frames when we compare it to a 60 frames per second copy. Beneath that, I am attempting to reproduce what we observe on Charlie Kirk directly above. That is, I'm not going to describe it. You can look at it yourself and determine independently whether or not I have succeeded in reproducing that. The work that I do, and I'm going to put this slide back over here now, I'm trying to reproduce what we see happen to Charlie. I'm extremely focused on the physical thing on video that we capture. I'm not focused on Tyler Robinson. I'm not focused on Losey Center. I'm not focused on text messages. I'm not focused on people. I'm not focused on specific rifle calibers. I'm not focused on the legal case, any of these things. What I'm focused on is what physically happened to Charlie Kirk. When I look at the video, I do not see someone being shot. I see massive amounts of liquid coming out, but the thing that precedes that, in my opinion, is not someone being shot. It looks like something pinches his shirt, yanks it up to his ear. That's what it looks like to me. So we've had so many different people on YouTube, many different channels, over and over and over again, trying to reproduce what we see on Charlie Kirk. And it is never remotely close. We have 2 different people who have attempted to reproduce the chain behavior, but it is exactly opposite what we see on Charlie Kirk. On Charlie, we see backwards and upwards movement of the necklace, but when we try to replicate that with a bullet, it expands outwards radially, flies forward, and the pendant falls down. And in my opinion, that is grossly inconsistent with what we actually see in the video. And I think we should start with the video of what happens to Charlie. The other thing we see is the shirt sort of billowing out like this. We see white gas in some of the frames. And so what I try to do is I try to reproduce it. If this were a weapon system, I should not be able to reproduce it. People have criticized my work as being, oh, you just recreated a puff of air under my shirt. And that is correct. What I'm doing is I'm putting a CO2 device, this thing, under my shirt, going to heat shrink tubing, going to this cross pendant, which is located on my necklace. I put this under my shirt, I fire it, and that's how I get the stuff over here in the blue there. That's how I reproduce it. And if it is your opinion that I'm even close to replicating what we see on Charlie Kirk, I would submit to you that what happened to Charlie Kirk is a puff of air under his shirt shooting the pendant up. I've reproduced it, and the rifle people have not been able to. Every single test of the rifle has failed. They cannot, number one, get a 30-06 to stop in any substitute for a human neck. It always goes right through. Could there be edge cases? Maybe, but we can't replicate it. It doesn't seem like the most likely explanation that it was a 30-06. Then you say, okay, maybe they got the rifle caliber wrong. Maybe it was one of these magical edge cases. Sure. We still don't understand how either the cross pendant comes up or the shirt comes up. We still cannot explain this because cavitation doesn't do that. We know what cavitation does. I played the video at the beginning of this showing you what cavitation does. It doesn't do that. It expands out radially. It doesn't force it up linearly in one single direction. So what is my theory? My theory is my hypothesis, and this is what I'm doing. What I'm doing is science. Science doesn't say this is what happened. That's not what happened. I know exactly for fact this is what happened and what didn't happen. Science says we have a phenomenon, a thing happened to Charlie Kirk, and we want to understand what caused that phenomenon. If we just say that it was a rifle shot, then we should be able to shoot a rifle into a substitute for a human flesh, and it should replicate it. But it doesn't. It doesn't replicate it, not even close. It always goes right through the neck, and you never get behavior that is consistent with the shirt behavior or the pendant behavior. The closest we can get is directly opposite what we actually observe. So this is a bad hypothesis. This hypothesis does not help us understand what actually happened to Charlie Kirk. So I can do tests here in my lab, in my studio, in order to reproduce that using a different hypothesis. The first hypothesis was the rifle. Didn't work. So I go to my hypothesis, which is the faked death theory, and it actually does work, in my opinion. We see the shirt yank up like this. We see the pendant strike the neck, just like we seem to observe in the video. And I can also explain the back of the shirt. It's kind of hard to see in these frames here, but you can kind of see it right here if you can see where my mouse is. The back of the shirt puffs out as well. I think that was a squib that failed. It activated its air pressure, but it did not activate the blood in the back. That was supposed to be an exit wound on the back of the neck, because everyone knows that a 30-06 does not stop in the flesh. It would have an exit wound, so you would naturally plan for an exit wound. How did I arrive at this theory that it was a CO2 pendant gun? Because when you're trying to fake something like this, I think she's telling me that I'm low on time. When you're trying to fake something like this, you put on a prosthetic, you put a blood bladder underneath the prosthetic, and you need the blood to come out of the prosthetic. But in order for that to work, you have to cut the prosthetic before the camera starts rolling. But with this, you cannot do that because you can't walk up to Charlie Kirk and cut his neck and then walk back and then have the gunshot go and have all this stuff work. No, you need a way to cut the prosthetic at the moment of blood delivery, at the moment of the shot. So how do you do it? Well, when I started learning about this stuff, I figured out that was a problem. And one of the key things about reverse engineering is you have you, engineering, you start with a problem and you work towards a solution to the problem. But reverse engineering is the opposite of that. You start with solutions that seem like anomalies, and you have to work backwards to what the problem was. And that's what I'm doing here. And as I started learning about Hollywood squibs and blood delivery systems underneath prosthetics, we find out that we have a problem. We have to have a way to cut the prosthetic at the moment of blood delivery if the context is live theater, which it effectively is for Charlie Kirk. So that's what I think is the reason why we have the cross shooting into the neck at relatively low pressure. And that's why I think that we need this stuff. And then you can say, okay, how would the prosthetic work? We have up close photos of his neck. Well, I think they have really good prosthetic artists, especially at the top of Hollywood, which they would have had access to. How do we synchronize the rifle on the roof to the squib? I'm going to be demonstrating that on Monday, assuming that the shipping comes through. It's basically
We
just
have
with show
15
control.
minutes, Jordan. Sorry to interrupt you. We have 15 minutes. So what do you, would you like to keep? Okay.
That will be the end of that. So now it will be time for James to ask questions of me.
So let me get this straight. You believe that Charlie's death was faked and it had a CO2 cartridge in his lapel mic that was a bullet wound.
That is
Correct?
the yes, that is or no, not yes. That is the hypothesis that I'm testing. I'm not asserting that to be true, but I do believe that so far this is the strongest hypothesis that has the most explanatory value.
Okay. Man, there's so many things wrong with this. So is cavitation, you know what that is, correct?
Yes. I have a basic entry level understanding, yes.
So that's kind of like, airflow, displacement of airflow and everything like that whenever a bullet moves through something, correct?
A fluid of fluids inside the
Yeah.
neck, not
Yeah.
air.
Well, yeah. You can have cavitation and it not actually touch anything. Like I've seen deer get shot and the cavitation from the bullet causes them to like their heads to, blow up or whatever, and the bullet never even touched them. Um, so is that predictable or unpredictable?
If you know the exact position of the rifle, the exact round, I would imagine you can put it in a physics simulator and get a pretty accurate prediction.
It's unpredictable. Uh, Fluid dynamics are one thing that scientists have a hard time trying to figure out. The turbulence problem, trying to figure out turbulence for aircraft, is something that scientists have not been able to figure out. They still can't figure it out. If you just Google it on AI, it'll tell you straight up that bullets are extremely unpredictable. So, knowing all of that, we have to go back and say, okay, why did his shirt move like that? Is it possible that his shirt moved like that because uh, fluid things are unpredictable? Or things moving through fluid, air, water, whatever, they're unpredictable and they can cause things to move weird.
Sorry, was that a question?
Yes. Is it possible that can we say that fluid dynamics being what they are, they can cause things to move weirdly?
I would struggle with your definition of what you mean by weirdly.
Can they move in an unpredictable fashion?
At what precision?
Let's not get bogged down and trying to figure out all that, just in general.
I don't want to make a general statement. I want to make a specific statement. When you
Okay.
say weird, At what
We
level?
backed
At
off of
what
that, and I
scope?
said we backed off of weird, and I said, can they move in an unpredictable fashion?
Unpredictable. At what scope am I to say that it is unpredictable? At the uh, at the microscopic scale, or if at macroscopic scale, just at what scope would it be unpredictable?
At the scope that we're talking about somebody getting shot.
Is it unpredictable at the molecular level? Absolutely. Is it unpredictable at at this level here? Yes, it's unpredictable in that sense. But I don't know where exactly to place the line between. Yes, we understand how it works generally speaking, and we can't simulate it like atom for atom. I don't know where you're drawing that line.
It's just unpredictable. We'll go ahead and move on with that. You've already conceded that it's unpredictable. So, uh, ropes. You talked about the necklace. Uh, are ropes? Do they move always in a predictable fashion?
If you have determinism as your understanding of the world, it's predictable. But again, we're back to the same issue. At what scope are you saying
At
it's
the scope that
unpredictable?
we're talking about somebody getting shot.
That's not an answer. I'm still confused. At what scope?
At the scope we're talking about somebody getting shot. Like what scope? What would give me
Okay, hold on.
A,
Let
B,
me
or C, and I'll pick from there.
say we're trying to simulate. I'm trying to understand where you're drawing this line, and I'm trying to explain what I mean by the line. Say we're trying to simulate cavitation in a simulation in Blender, in 3D animation software. If we set the resolution to like 140p, would it be predictable? That versus if we set it to 4K, would it be predictable? That's the line I'm talking about.
All right. In the scope that somebody is getting shot is a rope. You know, I'm going to drop it because I don't understand kind of what you're talking about. We're talking exactly about somebody getting shot, and you're like, well, what's the scope? We're talking about the scope of somebody getting shot. We understand what the scope is. We don't need to try and figure out molecular or the macro. We're talking in a specific situation, and you're trying to find things that relate exactly with that correlate to the scale we're talking about. So we'll go ahead and drop that. I will tell you that ropes. This is You can Google this on AI or whatever, or use whatever AI. They're unpredictable as well. Um, do you know the angle of the shoot of the shot?
I have multiple hypotheses
Well, just
where
say
I
no, dude.
think
Just angle of the shot. Just say no. There's no. Do you know the
I
angle
don't
of the
know
shot?
for certain the angle of the shot. No,
Okay. Do you know the exact grain weight of the bullet?
no,
Do you know? Let's see. So you don't know. You, you don't know the angle of the shot. You don't know the grain weight of the bullet. Do you know whether it was full metal jacket, hollow point, or anything like that?
no, I do not.
Okay. Do bullets move predictably once they hit a body?
In a sense, yes, but in another sense, no.
No, they do not move predictably. I can tell you right now, you brought up a 30-06. Did Martin Luther King still have a bullet lodged in his body when he got shot with a 30-06?
According to reports, yes, he did.
Was he still breathing when they came to tend to him?
I I don't know.
He
I
was.
don't know.
He was shot in the jaw. It was lodged in his body. He was still breathing. So having said all that,
Supposedly, but I think we could all also say that there were a host of issues with that case too.
Okay, well, there's been case studies of a 56-year-old man, let's see, uh, who was shot, bullet was lodged inside of him. He was shot in the head, close range. Um, it's Bullets are just unpredictable. Once they hit a body, they don't tend to go straight because your skin is elastic. On top of that, you've got different densities. You've got your skin, you've got your muscle, you got your tendons, you've got your nerves, and they all have different densities. And once they hit them, they tend to move unpredictably because there's different structures in there. Uh, Bone has been known to deflect bullets very easily, just because once you get to the bone, you have all the different tendons and all, like I said, all the different soft body tissues that cause the bullet to change directory, lose velocity.
Oh, I think you got
Here.
muted for some reason.
Speaking.
It says
his
your mic got disconnected.
So we
If
appear
you
to
can
have
hear
lost.
us, yeah, if you can hear us, James, it shows that the mic is disconnected on your end. It's not something that we can adjust on this side. I don't know if the connector got loose. And if you can still hear me, you can also maybe refresh, reload, and come back in.
Hey, Clyde, we're not going to you just yet. We'll give him some more time to come back in. But can you indicate to me in some form if you're going to come in for your segment? So I know you're in the chat. And I did send you the link. Oh, he's asking if he can come up. We're going to give James a second to come back.
And then also there were audience questions too. Oh, let's see. Okay, I think he's just back.
Yeah, I got booted off. Where was that? Where did I leave off?
I think you were talking about the elasticity of tissue and the unpredictability of ballistics.
So, how do you believe that somebody was on the roof?
I do.
Do you believe that his family identified him?
I don't know.
It's in the charging documents.
I don't know why I should believe that.
Do you believe that the family would lie to the police?
It also
Do I
doesn't
believe
say
that
that
the
they
family-
positively identified him. It says that they thought that it, hold on, I'm pulling it up right now, but that it resembled him or it might have been him.
They identified him.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Do you believe his family identified him?
I don't know.
It's in the charging documents. Do you not believe the charging documents?
I don't believe or disbelieve. I've not been convinced that I should believe the charging documents.
Do you believe that the parents would lie to the police?
I don't know them, so I have no idea.
Do you believe that the police would lie in a charging document?
Would lie? I would say they could
I'm sorry.
lie.
Let me. Do you believe the police lied in their charging documents?
I don't know.
Kelly, don't shake your head at me.
Too late.
Let's try to keep neutral moderation, please.
I'm moderating neutrally, but it was an honest answer. Does it happen? It happens.
No, you just look cute when you nod your head. Don't do that to me. So
Let's stay on topic.
I am. I think. So do you think, or do you believe that Tyler was lying when he confessed the 4.5 times?
I don't know that he ever did confess.
Do you believe he did not imply to his family that he was the shooter?
I have no direct knowledge of any of Tyler Robinson's statements.
So what are you going to believe? Let's answer that. What will you believe?
My investigation starts at the video footage of what physically happens to Charlie Kirk.
So you're basing all of your research off of video.
It starts at the video. It doesn't end at the video.
You're basing the majority of what you are going to research off the video.
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand how that's faulty?
Tell me.
So it's faulty for a number of reasons. First off, you can't determine angle from a video. I've had this argument with several people before in terms of there being a bullet. If you were to have your significant other, your spouse, your kid, or something like that get shot and die, and the police say, we don't need to go to the crime scene. We've got video of it, and we're going to do our entire investigation based off the video. How would that make you feel?
I'm not going to speculate on that. I don't know.
You don't know how you would feel.
Objection, speculation. I don't know.
How would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
I'd be hungry.
Okay.
Because I didn't eat breakfast this morning. That's not speculation.
Okay. All right, brother. All right. It's faulty because you can't determine the angle from the bullet. You can't determine the different variables, the sight lines, and things like that. So have you been to the site at all?
No.
Have you tested out to see if the police's theory is faulty?
Yes.
And you've done this strictly with the video?
Not strictly with the video, but it starts at the video.
What else have you used besides the video?
The video is my reference point for what I'm trying to reproduce as I test hypotheses.
So that's a lot of words to say you're basing your entire research off of the video.
I disagree with that statement.
You're basing it off the video, and then you're trying to recreate what's happening in the video. So have you not tried to recreate what the official narrative is using the video?
I don't have a range where I can go do that, but many others have.
Many others have. They shot somebody in the neck.
Not people.
What have they shot?
Ballistic dummies, steel.
Steel doesn't.
Steak.
That's the worst thing you could do is shoot steel. Steel is not a body. Ballistics gel, even that is kind of iffy because you just can't can't recreate tendons, you can't recreate nerves, you can't create the different insertion points from muscles, you can't recreate ligaments. You just really can't account for the different densities in soft tissue mass. So you what would convince you that your hypothesis is incorrect?
What would disprove my hypothesis?
No, just one thing. What's one thing that would convince you your hypothesis is incorrect?
If I saw a deceased human body that was clearly Charlie Kirk.
So you're never going to get that. You understand that, correct?
That's one example.
Okay, give me 3.
It's difficult to disprove a negative. I think I would, an autopsy would help that appears authentic. That would help.
Okay.
So there's two.
I'm gonna attack you on this. Go ahead and give me the three.
Okay.
You said an autopsy. What's another one?
It's difficult to conclusively disprove it because I'm saying that it was engineered, that someone intentionally did it and they were intentionally solving problems to recreate exactly what we saw. So basically, I would need proof of death, and authentic appearing autopsy would help. It would not be conclusive in and of itself, but seeing the dead body would certainly help. But what would help me, what would convince me, if I can answer a slightly different question, since we're not actually in court, what would persuade me towards your position is if someone could reproduce a 30-06 stopping in a medium similar to the human neck, if someone could reproduce the chain behavior, if someone could reproduce the shirt behavior using a shot to the neck, that's what would persuade me. But it's just difficult conceptually to disprove my theory since it's stating that it was engineered. But that's what would persuade me.
Okay, you're never going to get that, and I'm going to tell you why. Bullets are unpredictable. Airflow is unpredictable. Bones, people's muscles are different. You're just never going to be able to exactly reproduce what you say. In terms of an autopsy, like you kind of left a little weasel word in there. Don't look at me like that, Kelly.
Better zip it.
In terms of, made me lose my train of thought. In terms of, you know, the autopsy, you kind of left yourself a little weasel word in there, like that it would. How did you frame it? You said it would be uh, believable to you, or how did you phrase it?
It would help persuade me.
If what? If the autopsy was what?
So if I saw an autopsy that appeared authentic.
Okay, that appeared authentic. So even if they gave you the autopsy and you looked at it and you that fingernail doesn't look like Charlie Kirk's. It could be something that's small and that minuscule that I believe you would still hang on to your theory. I don't think there's any convincing you that your theory is incorrect. For me,
May I clarify?
yeah.
What I mean by authentic is like the source, like what I was asking you previously, like what is the source? If it comes out on social media, I would need to know that it's authentic. If it came directly from the government, then that would certainly be persuasive.
See, again, it would be persuasive. It wouldn't kill it for you.
No,
And I've run into this a lot. This is kind of one of those deals, and I'm not saying you are, but it's similar to flat earthers. Uh, you can disprove every one of their uh, their theories, their thoughts, their hypothesis, and at the end of the day, they're still going to hang on to it because they've built, they've invested so much time, effort, energy into this theory that nothing's going to convince them otherwise. I really don't think there's going to be anything that's going to convince you otherwise. You've invested a whole lot of time, effort, and money into this. So
did I
how
tell
much
you
more?
what would help persuade me?
What else would help persuade you?
If someone could reproduce the necklace behavior, the shirt behavior
And I
with their
told
rifle.
you you're never going to get that. And I
I think
gave you
that's why.
I gave you a bunch of reasons why. I can give you articles that link to the unpredictability of bullets. I can give you
I don't
articles
agree with
that
you.
you what?
I disagree.
That there are articles that
You
talk about the unpredictability of bullets that as they enter a human body.
you would need to specify what exactly you mean by that. But I think that if and this format is a little bit scattered now, but I think that if cavitation were to reproduce what we saw, we should get at least close. to what we see on Charlie Kirk. It shouldn't be the exact opposite both times we tried. It should be at least close. Not perfect, but close.
Okay, so if you got something that was close.
Yeah.
You
I don't need
okay.
it frame by frame perfect. Just at
Okay.
least
So
the right direction, the right basic physics.
so what you need to do is you need to get somebody who's about 6'4", 6'5", in decent shape, not, a hulking massive athlete. You need to sit him about 140 yards away. You need to have a bright sunny day. Check the wind conditions. Have somebody perched on that low C roof in a prone position, and they need to get shot in the neck. Are you willing to find somebody that's going to be willing to do all that?
I don't think there would be any volunteers, no.
You're never going to get that. So, like I said, there's nothing that's going to be able to convince you that it's different, that it didn't happen. So, I guess what I do need to ask you is, what would be the purpose of faking a death?
Okay, there's a lot of different purposes. It is speculative because I don't know his mind. I don't have access to discovery. I don't know for sure. I have a PowerPoint. I think I deleted it though because I just cleaned up my whole computer. I had a PowerPoint that I could maybe try to find. Open recent. Is it here? I don't think so. But I have a list of like 7, 8 different possible motives. One of them is to escape a real death threat from a certain country in the Middle East. That is probably the most favored one. Another one is for political reasons, for a false flag operation. Another one is he is an actor playing the role of Charlie Kirk for donors, and they fired him, and their way of firing him was to fake his death in order to gain political support. Those are probably the top 3, but there's several other ones as well. And another top leading one is there was an investigation, a crime that Charlie Kirk found out about. He was a witness to, and it was with super dangerous people, and they needed to egress him to the witness protection. And this was the only way to do it. But there's a lot of different possibilities. I'm not married to any specific one, but like it's a buffet. You can come and take whatever you like.
And again, it makes 0 sense to kill somebody that influential when it'd be better for you to ply that person away, with either money, resources, influence, support, things like that. You know the things that are near and dear to Charlie's heart. That was the United States. It was God, and it was, making the United States better. It would be much easier than just killing him and leaving a vacuum where you don't have somebody of that influence. Uh, it- I, I just the only reason you assassinate somebody is if they are in, well, a couple of reasons. One, you're just sick in the head and you've got all kinds of delusions or something like that. The other reason that you would assassinate somebody is you just need them out of the way to accomplish your goals. Now, with Charlie, Tyler would eliminate Charlie because he saw him as, an opposition to his relationship with his furry girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you want to call him. With
That you're assuming.
Well, that's what he said in the charging documents when he talked to Lance. So basing that off of that, don't smirk at me.
The furry part is what I mean.
Yeah. You can smirk at me. I was just teasing. But in terms of, it just makes
Do you have
0
another
sense.
question to get to?
Go ahead.
Do you have another question to get to?
No, I just can't. No, I don't have any other questions. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, Kelly, do we have maybe 5 audience questions we can run through and then
I
go
was
to
going to
Clyde?
say, we've had some fantastic audience questions. Let me try to pick some of the best running through. My goodness, there have been some great ones.
Pick one from Blake.
Oh,
We're
you don't get
not
to
gonna
pick.
get-
I'm the moderator here. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. How about, here we go. From Tool Druid, I'd like James to explain all the decoys in the crowd, the security hand signals, security not performing CPR, Terrell stealing the cams and SD cards, Frank Turek's lies about Charlie. Let's hear it.
So I don't know
And
specific.
actually, we can do that too. He goes on to say, just so you know, because he
That's
had
a
a lot of
lot of
questions. This was back to back. I know, but I'm just giving you material. Okay, pick your poison. So we'll go back to the first one.
Okay.
Have at it.
So the decoys in the crowd, I don't know exactly what he's referring to. The hand signals, the security hand signals. I would assume that when you've got such a large crowd, that the security guards need a way to communicate with each other when they're far away from each other. Basically saying, hey, this guy over here looks kind of weird, watch him, or it might be time for me to take a break or something like that in 15 minutes, or look over in that direction. So that explains the security guards. The security guards not performing CPR. Honestly, chest compressions aren't gonna save you from a bullet wound to the neck. I I don't see why that's gonna happen. Uh, Stealing the SD cards, that's not stealing. He's securing the the uh, the SD cards and the cameras. Anytime there's a breakdown of these events, and I've heard people talk about it, and they say, "Hey, that's the first thing that the camera people do is the content that you gather that day is the most important thing." So that's just common practice. He didn't know what to do. He just kind of knew, hey, Charlie got shot. This thing is over. I I don't know what else to do except do what I always do when we break down. So I'm going to take the cameras and the SD cards. Frank Turek's lies about Charlie. I'm not sure anything about that. What's the other
I
stuff?
don't remember what he would have said. We have the other one.
I can go back to it, or I can just keep moving.
That was like 10 questions, so let's go to another one.
Okay. From Dr. Lexus, can you ask Jordan when he arrived at this theory?
I was thinking about this earlier. I was first exposed to it when Algeist went on Trigger Smart and presented his scientific Excel spreadsheet saying that the acoustic analysis put the shot into the van to the right of Charlie instead of into Charlie using the crack thump analysis. That was the first time I was exposed to it. And then Trigger Smart did a couple videos looking into prosthetics, and I didn't think they were particularly thorough. But I was looking back on it, and I'm pretty sure the reason I started taking it seriously was because of you, Kelly. When you first went on Trigger Smart, you seemed like a perfectly reasonable person. A former reporter, didn't seem crazy at all. And I think you said at a couple points in your first live stream there that you believed the fake death theory. And I didn't really know what to make of that. So that's why I first started taking it seriously and sort of interrogating it. But that was the beginning.
Wow. Well, thank you. That was my recollection too, because I remember you asking for the videos that I was referencing online because I wasn't able to show them during the live stream. And that was my first ever live stream to have hosted on my own. And it was right after the Erica Kirk CBS town hall thing, and yeah, I feel like it was back in the day. It feels like many, many moons ago, but in some regards, it wasn't all that long ago. We've come a long way since then.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
Hey, can you do me a favor?
Sure thing.
So at Kimb-71 has a question.
No, I'm not engaging with that. No, I'm not engaging with that. That person is not a serious
I know,
person.
I'm being silly. I'll stop.
Okay.
Let's go to the next real question.
Go to what?
The next real question.
Okay. I have a bunch of them starred, so I'm going through here. Well, this was one just talking about, because I know that was kind of a contentious. There were a lot of people in the chat who were chiming in at that point when you guys were talking about, would the family potentially lie to the police or be coerced? Did you have any other thoughts? Either of you have any other thoughts?
I have never met a parent that would lie to the police about their kid committing an assassination, or not lying, lying to the police and in confirming that their kid committed an assassination. I've never seen that happen.
That their words couldn't be taken out of context? I'm sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
No, go ahead. I was just going to tell the chat, like, if you have a question, I probably should have stated that outright. But if you have a question, please post the question in the chat and say whether it's to me or to James. Because I guess we're kind of low on real questions here. Okay. Do you see any more, Kelly?
Yes, one moment. Okay, how about explain the dogs missing the scent?
I think you and I got into this last time, Kelly, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. In that space, I went ahead and posted an article, and it was about drug dogs or bomb sniffing dogs at the TSA, and they were failing in Houston. So when I was like saying that drug dogs, bomb dogs, they're not 100% accurate. I think they were hitting it like, I think their miss rate was like 30%. It was something really high, and they were like, this is a serious problem. I'd have to look back and find the article, and it was recent, but dogs aren't perfect. They make mistakes.
That's probably, well, and bullets do weird things, right?
They do. Can you hold on? Can you do me a favor?
What's that?
Can you look at the camera and say that one more time exactly? No, I'm just messing with
No,
you,
because I said it dripping with sarcasm.
Okay.
No, but I would also say, though, that at least one of the dogs that was in this group was actually like an award-winning dog. I don't have the article at the ready right now, but I do have it in my notes somewhere. So that's a fun and interesting little tidbit.
That's fine. I mean,
all right, let's do a couple more questions, and then hopefully Clyde is still here, and he can come in at any moment. I sent you a DM, Clyde, with the link. So just come in whenever you're ready, and let's do a couple more. I just found one here. I didn't actually read it, though. If the content is so important to protect, for what? If the content is so important, what content? Is that to base the premise of an investigation? I just heard you say that video is not something you would base a series of events on. I think this is addressed to James. I guess I'll ask you this. Would you base your investigation on video? I think that's what they're asking.
no, if I would not base an entire investigation off of video, no.
Would you rest or base a portion of your investigation on video?
A portion, certainly.
What percentage?
What percentage?
Like in general.
In general, proportional to, what else is available. So let me put it to you like this. If somebody robs a bank, and they cover their face, you would use the video, to say, hey, you know, this person was wearing this, but their face was covered. And, you know, you could use the video to help with an investigation, but that wouldn't be enough to arrest everybody that had. Let me back up. So if you had somebody that was wearing a black ski mask, a blue shirt, and blue jeans on video, that wouldn't be enough to arrest somebody off of using that video of the person wearing a black ski mask and whatever else. It wouldn't be enough. So you can't base an entire investigation off of video.
Okay.
Sometimes
Do
you
we have
can.
one more? We have one more question, maybe, and then we'll move on.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. I just had one. I think this was a good one. Why did everyone say they heard a firecracker?
Okay. Do you want me to answer that one?
Go ahead.
Sure.
People don't know what guns sound like. There's been videos of people in war zones where they've got bad cars or whatever, and they're ducking, and it's, a car backfiring. Or they're not ducking because they think it's a car backfiring and it's actually a bullet. I know people that have reported at riots and things like that, and they are angry at their media members because the media members haven't been in a riot, and gunshots go off, and everybody's looking around thinking it's fireworks, and the other guys that have been in riots are upset because, they're going to get killed, and they're like, that's gunfire. That's gunfire. So people don't know what they sound like, and then on top of that, depending on the acoustics, um, it might sound a little bit weird to people who have even been around guns and fired guns. So there's all kinds of reasons.
All right, and I would agree with that answer. A lot of people do report gunshots as fireworks, so that is a known phenomenon. Looks like we do have Clyde in the studio now, so I will go ahead and end out this segment with you, James. Thank you for coming on, sir. I appreciate your time. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, James. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, bye. All right, he's been removed, and now we're going to go on to Clyde. We're at about 2 hours. Kelly, is the time right now okay to start a new one real fast?
Yep. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. And let's clear out comments and put his name up there, and we'll bring him onto the stage. Hey, Clyde, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks for coming on. How much of the last one did you hear?
I listened to everything. I think probably missed a little bit of it, but I was there for most of it, for the most part.
Okay.
So I pretty much heard
the format then. Okay. So your first thing is I'm going to give you 5 to 10 minutes to present your theory uninterrupted, without interruption. If you would like me to show show stuff in the Blender simulation here, we can do that at your discretion. But we're going to go ahead and start your time now. 5-10 minutes uninterrupted. Okay, is that all right? He's still there? Oh, he's not there. Okay, now you're back. Sorry. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
You can hear me now? Can you hear me now?
That was my fault.
All right.
Yes.
So I was saying, as I was saying, my approach to it was sort of like yours, because the video is everything. The video evidence is going to be everything. We need video evidence. And so when I started, I kind of just heard with Brian, Harpo, and whatever the other guy is, his name is, that interviewed him. I think it's, if you can help me out with that first interview that Brian did, On YouTube.
Sean Ryan.
Yes, thank you very much. Sean Ryan's when I heard him, I think he was talking about like an autopsy and all that, and right away I was just thinking like, no, there's no way that's a Tyler Robinson shot. Like, how can they have an autopsy, but how does he have an autopsy, but they're not releasing it? And it just, everything seems strange. And, I didn't give it too much thought though, but it's the more they talked, the more it just bothered me because it was like almost scripted. It didn't seem natural to me. And, I like true crime stuff, right? Like I like investigative stuff. I've done that type of stuff, but never for like professional, like, so I don't have credentials or nothing like that, but I do have an education in a lot of stuff, and terminal ballistics specifically. I'm a little somewhat educated in that, but I don't have credentials, as I said. But earlier I won't jump into that. Let me just continue. So I started just listening to what they were saying and watching video, and my brain recognizes patterns. And I just, it kept coming to me that they were measuring, like, it seemed like they were measuring from the moment they walked in. And my initial thought was, I had a theory, and but I never told anybody at the time, is my theory was that shot came from underneath the table. And that's what I had thought for the longest time, and for like 3 weeks, since it started in retrospect. And I remember I went all the way around. I started looking, and the first person that stuck out to me was Andrew Faraci. He's he's the cameraman in the brown t-shirt, big guy. It was his first time working for Charlie, and he had this story on some other YouTube podcast. I don't remember who that was, but I think the episode, or you can probably find it under the name, probably The Shot That Shook America. That's what I can remember. So it's Andrew Faraci, and you'll find it. And anyways, so the more they talked, and it just like, wow, to me, like it just seemed weird that they were bringing up God, and I know this might sound like I'm rambling on, right? But I'm just giving you how I became interested in it, because my brain was recognizing these patterns. It already had a pattern, which was a geometrical one. Some people associate it with the tree of life, I think it's called, with these candles. So anyway, something just seemed weird and odd about everything. I'm looking at video footage, and my brain is seeing like people there that are decoys, and a lot of people seem to know what was taking place. So I just started looking at, what are these people doing? What are they doing? The security and all that. And I went in a whole circle around this. I started out on the left side from Cub Keller's video, and that one there's like, I don't know if it's exactly his video, but there's one just like it, and it's on the side. It goes towards the tunnel, and that's my first video. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, because they all go hide by the car after they walk away, like a military style. The police officer's pulling out his gun, looking to the right, and those are star witnesses right there. It just didn't fit to me. Like, the immediate reaction of them seemed quite odd to me, because I know they wouldn't be helping Tyler Robinson, right? If these people are sitting on the right side of Charlie, looking towards the northeast direction at the low C center, so they're right there at the edge of the tunnel, how can they hear the shot to the left of them? So that was one thing that stood out to me, is these three individuals. And without bias, like, I'm not already blaming them at this time. I'm just processing it and just wondering, like, wow, that's very telling right there, including Frank. I was like, well, Frank didn't even look towards the low C center. He ducked down immediately, and it seemed to be like that's something that you don't want to fake that. Why would he duck down so fast like that? And he, to me, that's your subconscious mind, because if you recognize these behavioral patterns, which, like I said, from the beginning, I started to recognize there was a pattern, and which caused me to just I was like, for sure, like it's got to be under that table, but I had to keep going and just trying to see their reactions, looking at their eyes. I'm pretty good with measuring angles on 2D image and 2D video analysis, and I'm pretty good at that because like I'm in the flat Earth community, and we're doing all that stuff, right? And people might think that like, oh, flat earthers are dumb. I'm not saying I'm a flat earther, but I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just letting you know why I know a lot about 2D perspective and the angular resolution and why things might seem the way they are. But the baseline is consistency, right? You got to have consistency when you're doing this stuff, or else everything starts to fall apart. And one thing that was really consistent was there would be no reason for them to be doing all this measuring near that table. And I know everybody can see it. You can see that they're just circling that table, and it's quite awkward. So this is my initial thing, right? I never thought that I was going to do this terminal ballistics, but when I started to realize, like, no way, there's something else going on. That shot came from a lot closer. Then I started to say, well, I'm going to give it a try, right? Because the neck, it's soft tissue, mostly. You know, it's all mostly soft tissue, and yeah, there might be tendons in there, and this and that, but besides the spine, you don't, it's all soft tissue, really. The bullet should have been a through and through for one, with a 30-06, and yeah, there is a case in Martin Luther King, so they have data that's claiming or stating that it is possible, right? But remember, everything has to be consistent. So I'm working my way, and I'm like eliminating things. Remember I said I was going all around. There was a ladder, not a ladder, but a dolly that was right next to the car. And I could hear somebody say rope or don't record. Dan said don't record. Everybody seemed to do this behavioral pattern where they all just did some weird, it looked like everybody pulled a trigger. Like they did some weird snapping thing, like whether it was a second or 2 seconds before, but within that little short period, they all did. And I, you can use psychological reasoning when you start to see this, you notice patterns like that. And that ultimately became, to me, known as, yeah, they were playing decoy, but they didn't think anybody would ever figure it out because it's just so complex. And here's what I realized. They were surprised, and they didn't expect that to happen. I think it was supposed to be a lot more gruesome because they only listen, the person, please allow me to, sorry if I'm jumping off track, just try to pay attention and bear with me, because listen, the temporary cavity, I want to try to answer that question where he said you can't predict. He is right, and he seems, the person that you had on, he seems to be educated in this stuff. He knows what he's talking about. He didn't mention the specific fields, but I think he probably knows more than he's putting on. And the thing is when you when he's, yes sir, go ahead.
I am gonna interrupt. Would you mind telling us what your theory is?
Yeah, I'll get to that right now. If I can just get like 30 more seconds, and I'll land the plane right here with this one. Is that okay? Yeah. So what I was saying is, I'm not trying to say say anything like, implement or blame him or nothing. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he probably knows a little more, and that's good, because he was correct in that you can't predict a bullet after it impacts, and that's where terminal ballistics starts. It starts at impact, and internal ballistics is what's going on inside the weapon. External is when it's going through the air, and terminal ballistics starts at impact. So when you know the effects of temporary cavity and stuff like that, if you ever seen it through the soft gel, you would that the bullet can expand the soft tissue like 10 to 15 times the diameter of the bullet, right? And that's separate from the permanent wound track, which the bullet's actually ripping through. So when I started looking at the neck, I noticed that there was a change in energy direction. That's the chain popping up towards the neck. And there's data that's in terminal ballistics that it is plausible, and it does happen that the entry wound the temporary cavity can pull objects such as your t-shirt, linen, I think it's called, or whatever it's called, the material. Fabrics, that's what it's called, fabrics, the proper term, and objects such as chains towards the entry wound, right? And everything that is consistent, you have to be consistent, but every frame, I noticed the consistency with every frame of initial disturbance was always towards the left back corner, left back shoulder, right up there in that area, including the chain when it popped up. So my theory is, which I have a lot of data and physical, not visual evidence showing that is actually an exit wound in the front. And in terminal ballistics, these entry wounds, they're not always visible right away. There is a delay sometimes, especially with full metal jackets. That's what I believe. It's a full metal jacket, given the fact that they were measuring, that I believe they were measuring angles. And there's a lot of video that suggests that. And the angle that I have them at for measuring is a 3.6 degree angle at 4.5 feet off the ground for 17 feet away from Charlie to his left. So it would be approximately 93 degrees counterclockwise if we're using his Adam's apple as a reference for 0. And the target would be struck at 5.5 feet. So that's a 1 foot differential, and 1 foot differential ratio for 17 feet. And that would bypass the people in the audience. I've demonstrated a lot of this, and it's hard for me to convey these things because some people don't understand. Like, the process that I took, the very first process was the understanding temporary cavity. And like I said, deflection and tumble is the only way. Those two can make the expansion of this temporary cavity up to 10 to 15 times the diameter, remember. So when I seen this front view, there's a protrusion in the front neck. So the bullet enters somewhere on his left side at that angle that I was telling you, 93 degrees counterclockwise, and a 3.6 degree upward trajectory at 17 feet. And that's 4.5 feet in elevation off the ground is where the barrel is. Now, I determined this. Listen, I determined this by the protrusion in his neck. If you know anything about terminal ballistics and the temporary cavity and the effects of deflection and all that, right? You would understand. And listen, I'm almost finished. You would understand that that protrusion could only be caused by either tumble and especially deflection. And if you ever see my stuff, I have that crosshair, and I call it a famous protrusion, because I understand that, and I have notes too that I written. Those were my original notes, and I was working off the front shot, right? But those notes, you know what they did, Jordan? You know what they did for me, man? They automatically, right away, it said that shot didn't come from Tyler because that was an upward trajectory. When you have the protrusion, that first crosshair above the said entry wound. So still working off an entry wound at that time, I knew right away that if you extend from the protrusion to where they said was an entry wound, if you were to extend a rod through there like that, it would only go all the way to no further than the second row, I would say, first or second row. And that right there that eliminated Tyler, that narrowed down my search area to 90 degrees counterclockwise. It had to be from right there and there. Now, comparing my notes to real life data and all these things, there's a problem, because how do you explain the protrusion before the protrusion before the entry wound, if it truly was an entry wound? And it narrowed everything down, right? So I had found this person. There was everything. You have the barrel flash in Frank's phone. Geometrically, that's correct. Now there's probably 3 different things going on Frank's screen, right? But none of that matters, because the only thing that matters is that geometrically the angle of incident is the angle of reflection. And that means whoever was on the phone recording, the ones that caught Frank's phone and that flash in his phone at the exact same time as the shot, it's insane. It's actually before the shot, because it's a flash. It's the speed of light, not the speed of sound. We actually see the flash with the flash of the barrel on the weapon. I don't know what the weapon is. I don't know if somehow he's got a gun. I believe it's somehow on it or whatever. It's probably, but that's where the science has led me to. There's recoil. There's everything. I show it all the time, and now that's not it. That's not all though. Listen, the angle. Remember that angle I was telling you. If you put this in your computer and try to research it, it's called a keyhole slit. This is common in yaw. You ever heard of yaw? YAW. When the bullet yaws, this would be external ballistics. I don't know too much about like what causes the bullet to yaw like that, because it's a D-ring shape exit. And in terminal ballistics, that's most common, almost always with an exit, that D-ring shape. And yeah, that's common with an exit, right? And that's exactly what you see on the front of his neck before it fully opens up. And that's why the chain pops off. And I can tell you where the chain ended up, and the necklace pendant ended up just to the right of his lapel microphone. The lapel microphone never left his shirt. And you can put the video, like the frontal shot, in your CapCut right now and mess with the contrast to where you see that necklace slightly but when it goes, you're going to see it, because the light, there's 2 changes in direction that pop up, and then it goes the other way. When it goes the other way, you see it, the chain impressions right away with these 2. I can't show them here, but there's 2 images, right, that I have, the ones with my notes. Those 2 eliminate any explosion. Listen, any explosion, because you can't have a change in energy direction if it was an explosion, because the air moves uniformly. And to say that you can, that would be violating the basic laws of physics. And also you can, right? Let's say you can, but that is only uniformly, and that's outwards and possibly inwards. And it would have to be sitting on something that's rigid in that shape for the t-shirt to have those shapes in it. So go ahead.
All right,
I'll let
time's
you go ahead.
up.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. Perfect.
Oh, one more last thing. And also, remember, I have the video of the security guard getting hit with the secondary. No, this is very important. Please, give me 30 more seconds. Now, when he said, "Oh
Hello?
man, okay, all right."
Yeah, your time's up, but you're going to have the opportunity to talk about other things as we do cross now. But the time for uninterrupted speech is over. So thank you for that. I didn't quite understand what your theory was, so I'm going to ask some questions in hopes that I can get a better understanding of what your theory is. If you can answer, so we're going to do the next segment now, which is me asking you basically cross-examination questions about your theory. So we're going to begin that now for 15 to 30 minutes.
Awesome.
Hey, Clyde, what do you think physically happened to Charlie Kirk? And if you can keep your answer brief, that would be terrific.
Yes, sir. I think he was struck with a high velocity caliber, and I believe there was a deflection, and it leftwards for a frontal exit off the spine, and that it immediately caused a decordicate posture due to it hitting the spine at or near the C6, the cervical spine.
Okay, and where was it fired from?
I believe it was fired from his left, and it was a oblique lateral shot, and deflection is common in terminal ballistics with an oblique lateral shot, and most commonly with shots that are at angles like that, rather than straight forward, off the dense bone of that. Go ahead.
Okay, where did the bullet come from?
Well, based off of the trajectory reconstruction analysis that I was able to do, because there was secondary fragmentation, which just because they find fragments in the neck, that doesn't mean that there's no exit. So go ahead.
My question was a spatial question. And from what part of space did the bullet come from?
From it came, if you're asking for the coordinates, it came from the 17 feet away to the northwest from the victim, 93 degrees counterclockwise at 5.5.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes. Okay.
Where was the
So
gun?
so here, you know where the UVU is on the windows, right there. The UVU that's on the windows of the right there, right where you're at. There's only one UVU logo up there. It's on the green windows. He's standing right in between the U and the V, or where the grass meets that little patch of cement. It's like a little extra one, and
up
the
here
gate kind of goes in. No, down to the right of the tent. To the right of the tent. Yeah, right there, where that gate. Yeah, now go down to the cement, and where the cement. Yeah, right there, and then just to the right of that. It's
like basically
listen,
right here.
Yeah, half of his body is underneath the tunnel, and half of it's outside the tunnel, like the sunlight.
So bird's eye view, would it be like right here?
Yeah, and go to the left just a little more, more towards the tunnel right there, and then about right there, because he's directly at the edge of the tunnel, and it's I think it's approximately 17 feet away.
So this is where your shooter is?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And I think that from right here, it looks a little, yeah, you can go to the right a little more.
Rotate on the X. No, rotate on the Y. No,
so right there where he's at. And
okay, there we go.
Yes.
And
if you have the dimensions correct for the table, I can't be too sure if it's directly in front of that camera lens or just above it.
So the gun is right where the green person is, right?
Yeah, and he's about. I have it at 4.5 feet in elevation off the ground, and where Charlie is struck is at approximately 5.5 feet off the ground. That's a 1 foot, 1 foot elevation change, and it's an upward trajectory.
Okay, and how did you calculate that?
Based off of the angle that the neck, the protrusion that I was explaining, that was visible before you can see the said entry wound. At the time I was working with the entry wound, but there was problems with that because it shows that it was an upward trajectory, because that protrusion is caused by either tumble. It can be caused by a tumble, not either, but it can be caused by tumble, and especially deflection. Now I have this graph where I was.
So my question is, we have the wound on the front of the neck right here, and you're saying that's an exit wound. Okay, where's the entry wound?
Can you turn him? Yeah, go to the back of him. And it's just below the neck, the collar of the t-shirt. It's probably just below where. Now go to the left just a little bit if we're using, and more to the left, like coming back towards us, like right there somewhere. I can't be too sure, but that is where the temporary cavity occurred at, according to the consistency of that being the first frame of initial disturbance, and including from the front view.
Okay, hold on. You said according to, and then you said a bunch of words that I don't understand. According to the consistency.
I'll say it again. Would you like to say it again?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yes, sir. I said, based off of the t-shirt flap, and the way that his head tilted forward so fast, that is consistent with a high velocity projectile and temporary cavity taking place in the back, because the consistency of the first frame of initiation always indicating towards that left back shoulder area. So I know that impact was there. And now the temporary cavity, there's also air displacement, right? But this is not always, this is rare.
Okay.
When you have,
Okay, hold on. How did we arrive at the conclusion that there's an entry wound right here? How did we arrive at that conclusion?
So when I did that, when I found the protrusion and I put a line,
Okay,
why
you said you found a
yeah,
protrusion.
yeah, my notes, when I did my observation, I did my notes first. And if I don't know if I can pull them up or how that would work, if I can put it in the comments or something. One of my
Oh no,
notes
that's not what I meant to do. Hold on.
Because see, look, there's a process, and that process I did it by following not standard. It's not called standard. Just principles, forensic principles of terminal ballistics.
Can you see the protrusion in any of these images?
Yes, and it's the first frame of initial disturbance for that one in the middle.
The one in the middle.
Yeah, right there. That one right there. That's the first frame of initial disturbance from that camera angle right there. Yeah, the one in the middle. I'm talking about that one.
Okay. All right.
You see that? You see that right there? There's a protrusion on his neck.
Yeah.
And what I was saying is, knowing the effects and knowing a little bit about terminal ballistics, that protrusion, it's like a bruising, but not a true bruising, and that is caused in terminal ballistics. That's caused from tumbling and especially deflection. Now,
okay, two questions here.
Go ahead.
Two questions. First, a bullet that's traveling like 10 feet, is that going to tumble?
No. Well, I don't see that. That's the thing. I don't know. Something could cause it to tumble, but then I would think if it did at that distance, it would probably be like, it would probably miss. So no, that's not plausible.
Likely? Do you
that's
know
not
of any
likely.
examples?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So how did you determine that it tumbled?
Because that's terminal ballistics. That's textbooks, man. That's that protrusion. That's what I'm saying. It can only be caused by, if I can pull out my notes, it's the subdermal bullets. You can already tell there's a bullet in there, right?
I don't agree with that statement. I don't agree that there's a bullet in there.
Okay.
Because a bullet
do you see the protrusion I'm talking about? This is not just something that it's just there. No, this is something that I know to document, and that's where I put my first crosshair at. Now, you see the first image? The first frame?
Let me try to redirect this somewhere we can both understand. If I'm out on a range right now and I'm trying to reproduce what we see in these images with their rifle, where do I put the rifle?
No, you don't start like that. What you do is you stabilize you go by frame analysis. You stabilize your frames, and those frames, I put it in your comments. It's a picture that's similar to yours. If you can pull that up, that would be perfect, because I labeled those first frames of initial disturbance, and you can see that there's other things taking place before that first frame of initial disturbance in the middle one right there. You see how you have that top one?
My question was, well,
go ahead.
I'll try to find your comment later, but my question was, if I am out on a range and I'm trying to reproduce what we see in these images, where do I put the rifle? That is a spatial question.
Well, I have it at 93 degrees counterclockwise if you're using his Adam's apple as a reference for 0. And that puts him at you're at 17 feet approximately. And so basically point A would be Charlie. Go ahead.
Why would that reproduce the shirt behavior that we see?
No, it doesn't have to reproduce the shirt behavior you see, because the consistency of everything else. You can't just base it off that front. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You see that front one, right? That one we're talking about, the one in the middle?
Okay, you just said that it does not need to reproduce the shirt behavior. Did I hear that
No,
right?
it doesn't have to be exactly like that because it's already documented in real life
Well, that's
ballistics
begging the
trauma
question.
data. No, let me tell you, dude. Let me just tell you this. It's documented that an entry wound, temporary cavity, can pull. This has happened in video that they have and data. There's real data for this. It's documented, right? That it is plausible and it has happened where entry wounds can pull fabric and jewelry towards them. And
But
and
why
in
should I
my
put the
analysis, what I
rifle
did,
behind?
listen. In my analysis, you're not letting me just tell you like I didn't just look. I actually stabilized the images because I'm doing a frame by frame analysis. So I got every single frame, made them stabilized, and using the background, the American thing behind him, you have to measure all that and take it all into account. I measure and put lines wherever he starts at, and you could see that his neck goes forward or his head goes forward. If you can think of the temporary cavity, you said you understood because you said it expands radially, right?
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah.
Where's the comment or the post that you said you wanted me to pull
Somewhere
up
in
or
your
resend?
comments, it was the image that looks similar to the one that we have up, and it has green dots on it, and the green dots are on 3 different photos.
Is it
And
on Twitter?
no, it's in your comments when I was on X, and I can see your see this
Why will
live
this?
stream. Yeah, when I was able to watch your live stream on X, so
Why
it's
will
somewhere
this not
in,
work?
huh?
I'm trying to pull it up right now, but it's not letting me. Hold on. This
Okay.
dual monitor setup does not work. Hold on. Let me try to
Well,
figure out
we
why
can
this.
just do it off of yours. We can do it off yours, but the green dots help to not get
Thing
confused. And
absolutely refuses to let me do anything right now.
oh, really?
With that, I
Yeah,
guess.
we can do it off yours if
Just
you don't.
get rid of that. There we go. It was just PowerPoint being really silly. Is this it?
Yeah, it has the green dots. See those green dots, and those are the first frame. Those, or actually, it's based off the bottom one. See that first frame of initial disturbance? That's in sync with the one above it, and then they're all in sync. The one with the green dots, but you see the other
Yeah.
things taking places before those ones meet. So
Why
one
is this
actually
telling
has.
you that? Why is this telling you that there's a shot from behind?
Which one goes furthest back?
Which one goes furthest back?
Yeah, like if you're starting from the green dots, excuse my slur right there. My mouth is getting dry. Yeah, so if you go from the green dots, right, because those are all in sync. Those are the same frame from each camera, as close as I can get them in a frame by frame analysis. So you see the second row,
Which
that
one
one.
goes furthest back? It would be this one. Yeah.
Yeah, can you zoom in on it, or for you to see that there's a dot? I think that one's the one with the dot, and if it's not, then it's the Cub Caller one. Or there's 2 videos, and I don't have one of them here on that image, but I think that's not the one with the dot. So there's actually another one before that. There's a dot that appears on his back, and it's in the shape of almost the shape of a bullet going towards that angle, right?
Are you
And
saying
and
that
I'm
is
not.
the bullet?
No, I'm not. It's not the bullet,
Okay.
and but it is possibly fabric, and from that the air displacement. Now look at that first one again. I think it's the first or the second one, and it's on the second row. Do you see like a bowl shape, like from the hair sticking up? When his head went forward and the shirt popped up, somebody said it looked like a camel. The shirt popped up really big. It looked like, but I just want to let you guys know that is a perspective issue, and the angular diameter, and when people think that it's an explosion because they think they see smoke, that's camera artifacts and distortion from motion blur. Like all these things need to be accounted for, right? Now
How do I get to the conclusion that it is a shot from behind? Help me get there.
Okay. So that bottom one right there with the green dot, that's the first frame of initial disturbance from there. This is how I started. Right there, I don't have the frame right before it, but if you were to put a line on his neck, the frame on the bottom one down there, the frame before he struck, put a line on the neck and the back, and from the left, if you're facing him, it would be his right side. And then one frame later, he struck, and his head goes forward. The shirt pops up right there, as you can see with the green dot, the one all the way in the bottom, right? Now there's a protrusion on his neck at that moment. And a lot of people were confused. Listen, a lot of people were confused because they just see that and they say, well, how did that happen? And that's why I'm pointing out to you that, look at those other things that took place before that frame, because those frames with the green dots, they all match. Those are all in sync right there. Like, that's as close as you can get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
And yes, sir.
I'm still lost. I don't know how I'm supposed to. Why should I arrive at the same conclusion you did?
Because if you were educated or had somewhat education in terminal ballistics, and you don't have to have education in it, you just need to understand that the basic principles of the effects that are taking place that I can see in the soft tissue through video observation, which is the protrusion in his neck, which that can only be caused by tumble or tumble, and especially deflection. Now,
Why
that's
would the
not,
bullet be tumbling?
I'm not saying it tumbled. I'm telling you these textbooks principles, bro. These are listen, it can only, do you know what the protrusion is? You see the dark spot on his neck in that first frame in the bottom, sir. I'm getting frustrated because I keep it's, and I apologize. I'm not getting mad or nothing. I hope that you don't mind. And I don't mind being here is all I'm trying to say, but I hope, I don't know, Jordan, help me help you understand.
Well, I think, okay, could I kind of step in for a moment here? I think would it be possible for you to kind of sum up the theory in, just about 30 seconds? Like, what would be the ultimate cliff
I'll
notes
do that.
headline
I'll do that.
of what you believe?
Yes, Kelly.
The elevator pitch.
Okay. The elevator pitch is consistency, and the fact that we have so many videos, that's a good thing because we can see from different angles, and as long as all those angles are consistent, then there is no contradiction. And if you understand the movements of the body or the soft tissue and how certain things can only happen, because this is textbooks terminal ballistics, you don't go beyond the principles. You just know, you understand that this protrusion, it's like a bruising. You can literally see it in that first frame of initial disturbance from the front down there with the green dot at the bottom. If you were to get your own and zoom in on it, you can see the protrusion. It can only be caused by tumble or deflection. Now hear this, listen to this. If you were to draw a line, because the back of his neck, that's where it starts. His neck goes forward, then you draw your crosshair on that protrusion, and you can see that the neck goes back way further than the protrusion. That is an indication that temporary cavities taking place and there was a deflection off the spine. Because remember, the reason why I'm saying especially deflection is because the bullet and the kinetic energy from change of energy direction, because of those two things, if you just look at a ballistics gel, you will understand what I'm talking about. When the bullet tumbles, when the bullet tumbles, it can expand the energy like radially, but way more than if it were to just go straight through. You know that, right? Like,
why can't I
deflection? Now check this out.
If I go out onto a range right now
and
try to reproduce this using your theory, hold on. How do I reproduce this? And shouldn't I be able to?
You can reproduce similar effects, but you're not going to produce the same exact thing because no two gunshots are the same. But we understand.
Sure. How do I get the similar effects?
by understanding, you can reproduce the effects or
Not understanding
yeah,
by
by looking at a
demonstration.
ballistics gel. That's why people shoot in ballistics gel, so that you can understand the
Right.
effects that happen to the soft tissue. And if you see the expansion in his neck, and at the vast speeds, this is at like 2 milliseconds, dude. We're talking supersonic speeds, something that I'm pretty sure you had trouble trying to reproduce, and that was probably your biggest issue with everything that you did. And I do give you props; you did a pretty good job, and I don't think you used any special effects. So I do give you props there. I'm gonna give you some credit.
How do I imagine I'm out in a gun range right now and I want to produce
I
similar
don't know.
effects?
That's what you're gonna have to try. Listen, you're gonna have to speak to somebody that is educated in internal ballistics and external ballistics. I have a little bit of education in terminal ballistics, which starts at impact. And it don't stop there, because now listen, remember what I said about consistency, right? So
I'm
not
going
only am I
to talk about a principle here. The
okay.
principle I'd like to share with you is when we make assertions about the real world, we look at a phenomenon, we think this explains it, that explains it. I have a theory that says this is what happened, here's why.
Yeah,
When we make these assertions, in order, how do we tell the difference between an assertion that is true and an assertion that is false or
you can
not
follow
likely
the
to be true?
scientific method
Hold on,
by following
hold
by
on.
following the
Please
scientific
stop
method.
talking. Hold on. We do that by looking for theories that can have predictive power, theories that can be demonstrated, theories that can be reproduced. To reproduce the observables that we see, we have to say, okay, this is what happened, then that happened, then that happened, and here is me demonstrating it. I can simulate it in a physics simulation in Blender. We can go out to the range and reproduce something similar. That is how we tell the difference between theories that are likely to be true and theories that are not likely to be true, by demonstration, by falsifiability, by predictive power. That's science. How do I, and that's why other people should arrive at our theory. That's what I would like to see you do
No,
to
no, no,
help
no, no, no.
me
If you're not,
understand
wait
why
up.
I'm not done yet, to help me understand why I should believe your theory. How can you demonstrate to me that your theory is actually likely to be true? Go ahead.
By having the opportunity to.
That's not an answer.
No,
How do I
yeah.
go out into
Wait,
the
wait,
field
wait.
and
Dude, Jordan. If you cannot tell me that's not an answer, because I'm giving you an answer. If you ask me a question, you're gonna allow me to give you an answer and not tell me, because I'm giving you a proper answer that is the correct answer, and that is that these investigators have to educate jury. And you're not giving me the opportunity to, and it's not my responsibility to do that. But
my
but you're
question
not
isn't
giving me the
how,
opportunity to. I'm
please
willing
give
to,
me a
though.
list of instructions.
If you understand the effects of temporary cavity, do you?
That's
When a
not a list
bullet,
of instructions.
listen. I'm giving you. I want to help you understand. If you just allow me, like, if you really are serious, like, we can stop and I can just help you understand the process that
Okay.
I went through, because consistency is a cornerstone, and following these principles, you know the principle that this protrusion, that, like, it's like a bruising, can only be caused by a tumble or deflection. That's how I was able to
Unresponsive. You're unresponsive here. So I'm going to give you one last chance and then we're going to go to audience questions. If anyone
all
in the
right.
audience has questions, please post them in the chat. One more try. Please give me a list of instructions that I can follow to reproduce what we see on Charlie Kirk, given your theory.
That's not what terminal ballistics is, and I apologize that you don't understand how I don't listen. I don't have to do that, because everything has consistency, and I was trying to explain to you that the fragment in the
Unresponsive. All
man,
right,
this
let's go
guy's
to audience questions. Clyde, you are now muted because you were not answering the question. Kelly, do we have any good questions that we should ask?
Yes, just one moment here. All righty. So, okay, question for both. Briefly describe, from It's Just Zero, briefly describe, in your opinion, why nearly every detail scrutinized in this case is absurd on its face, especially when the aforementioned relies on more insane levels of absurdity to be true.
I'll go ahead and respond to that real quickly, and then I'll give Clyde the opportunity to. I don't think everything is absurd on its face. I think that when we look at one of these events for the very first time with an extremely high degree of scrutiny, we're going to notice a lot of things that'll jump out as odd or bizarre. But that's just because we have no other examples. We only have the one example. And some of the things that we see may actually genuinely be odd and bizarre, but we don't have a very good baseline for knowing whether or not a lot of these things are actually bizarre. I agree that there are quite a few anomalies here that do indicate some fakery was afoot, but I would not agree that every detail scrutinized is absurd on its face for that reason, especially when the aforementioned relies on more insane levels of absurdity to be true. I don't know what that last statement was, but Clyde, why don't you go ahead? There you go.
So I'm not really sure of the question. I think it's absurd that people can't just do it for themselves. So when you ask for instructions, I'll give you those instructions briefly. There's a 10-second video. I would like for you to watch it for yourself. Zoom in on the individual that I ask, and you tell me, because nobody has been able to. Not that they haven't been able to. Nobody has ever tried. Just tell me what he has in his hand. Tell me if it has a pointed tip going upwards. Because I didn't just discover this. I'm telling you, the science led me to him, and I'm never able to get past the net.
Okay,
And
we're
that's all
now
I
on this segment where we're going to answer audience questions. You indicated that you don't understand the question, so can we go to a new one? We actually do have a question here on my screen. I just realized that it was already made public. Concerned Americans for America says, I don't think she's on the stream. She might be on the stream, but this is just randomly on Twitter. But I'll tag her and post, I guess. She's asking, I spoke to her in a Twitter Spaces. We had a Twitter battle, and I invited her into a Spaces, and she actually joined, and we had a good chat. So that was a great time. But she says, hey, Kelly, why do you believe that Charlie is still alive?
Oh man, it is it's a big discussion. So much of it has to do with context of things that happened leading up to the event, things that happened at the event, and things that have happened since the event. For me, it's not just about what we saw in that, even 15 seconds or 5 seconds if you want to narrow it down. That's really kind of what it boils down to me. I have a really hard time believing that all of those people surrounding Charlie could have just been cold-blooded murderers and all been in on a plot to kill him, or several of them, we'll say. And I find it much more likely that they were in on a plot to help him exit the scene for whatever reason.
And go to another one now. Sure, he's still in here. Try to find one for Clyde. We have any for Clyde specifically? He sent to me.
I think a lot of people were just really wanting to understand on the most basic level, like sum it up in a sentence. What does your theory boil down to? Just because people were having a hard time understanding.
Let's give Clyde another shot. In 30 seconds, Clyde, can you give an elevator speech? So imagine that you're in an elevator with a completely random person who has no context of the Charlie Kirk case. They know that Charlie Kirk was shot, but they don't know anything about the conspiracy theories. You have 30 seconds before you get to your floor. What do you tell this person to convince them or to introduce them to your version of what happened to Charlie Kirk?
I tell him there was a person that was shot from the back, and I was able to determine this based off of everything being consistent, such as the shirt popping up in the back from the first frame of initial disturbance, and then you have a keyhole slit in the front before it fully opens up, and that is consistent also in terminal ballistics, almost always with an exit wound. And what I was saying about the deflection is because they found fragment in the neck, that doesn't determine that there was no exit, right? Now there's also secondary fragmentation that hits the table, bounces off, hits the security in the arm. He has a dead arm because it hit him so hard. It was a non-penetrating secondary fragmentation impact, which caused his watch to break because he couldn't use that arm to jump the gate. So he had to try to slip it through. And all this stuff is consistent. And that was how I was able to do my reconstruction analysis and put a basically from the table where I seen that impact to the neck and the protrusion that leads to the spine. And there's only one other way, which remember I said all this stuff left me with a 90 degrees search area. That's what it narrowed it down to. And I was able to find this person, and it was the same exact angle as that front exit, almost the same exact angle. And that's all.
Okay. We have another question here. Or I guess that's for me. If he's still alive, and Kelly, if he's still alive, can someone explain to me what role Candace plays in this? Because how could you leave your best friend behind and let your wife be savaged by the media? My mind is open. How would you leave your best friend behind?
And I just want I want to apologize because my grammar sometimes is off. I'm really smart, but my grammar is just off sometimes. And I just want to say sorry.
No, you're good. Kelly, do you have any thoughts on that? This comment here?
How you leave your best friend behind and let your wife be sad. Look, maybe he realized that Erica was not who he thought he married. Maybe we give him the benefit of the doubt on that. Maybe this was all part of the plan. Maybe, I mean, there are so many different possibilities. And maybe he really didn't care. Maybe it was an arranged marriage from the beginning. I know
Yeah,
there's like a lot of things that you have to really like check your preconceived ideas or affection toward Charlie or TPUSA at the door when you start to really go down this path, because there are a lot of things that people just assume that they know. And the reality is you probably didn't know Charlie. You probably didn't know, just like you don't know your favorite actor or actress in Hollywood.
Yeah, and that's my position is I think he was playing a role, Charlie Kirk, but there's an actor underneath who is similar to the character Charlie Kirk, but certainly not identical, certainly does not hold all the values that he espoused through his employment at TPUSA. We have one question for Clyde here, and then I think we'll go ahead and close out, unless we have any other questions for Clyde. Ask Clyde how a 30-06 round gets shot out of a camera. Does he realize what would happen if you shoot that caliber or similar from a 5-inch or less barrel?
Do you want me to answer that now?
Yes, please.
I'm not claiming to know exactly how he shot it. I claim that the science has led me to him and everything. So I don't know if he has it on the side of it, but that is where it is fired from. And if you zoom in on the 10-second video, I have it on my page. It's everywhere, somewhere there. Find it. It's a 10-second video. You can do all the stuff yourself. Just go match everything. I'm telling you that Frank's phone has. Oh well, let me answer the question. I'm sorry, I'm deviating from the question. So I know that I don't make guns, and neither do you. So when you guys say things like, "Oh, you can predict a bullet" and stuff like that, no, you can't, and you can't tell me that that wasn't a high velocity projectile that he was struck by, because that's what it was. So I don't claim to know what exactly that camera is or the caliber, but if you look on that video, you can see him holding something with the tip up and it's pointed, and it looks like a 30-06 bullet to me. So you've never tried to shoot a 30-06 bullet from a barrel that is less than what it is. So you know what I'm saying? You don't know what these people did. You don't know. No, I know that you say that
a bullet when it's moving through the air as a bullet.
How do you explain? How do you explain the muzzle flash in Frank's phone, which is geometrically correct?
What that is. I don't know what was in Frank Turk's phone.
That's why you guys got to do the work. Like I did the work, and I synchronized it. You know how to synchronize videos with, you know, everything matches. And here, let me tell you this wildest theory. This is the only thing I will speculate on. This is the only thing.
Is this an answer to the audience question?
Go ahead, sir.
Is this an answer to the audience question?
Well,
or you're about to
yes, it is an audio. It is partially because I don't know what the weapon is, but I know it's from whatever he's holding, which appears to be the same camera that he was holding throughout the day. But I know this is a speculation. He's just, all he has to do is turning point. They brought a new meaning to turning point. And I believe Andrew Ferretti is the trigger man. That's why he puts his face to his camera, who is on the right side of Charlie. You can see the, listen, you can see the flash before you hear the sound at the same exact flash that's on Frank's phone and in the barrel of that camera. And it's the same exact flash at the same exact time before you hear the shot. That's the speed of light.
Is that in your video where we see the flash and the camera?
I have
and
somewhere on my page, yes. Somewhere on my page I have that, but it's not that hard to synchronize it yourself.
Clyde, I'd like to ask a question. Clyde, have you made any effort to speak to Andrew yourself?
Yeah, Andrew actually made an effort to speak to me, and he finally gave up. Or he didn't give up. He said, "Fuck, this guy's not playing," because he knows that I know, and I told him he's a trigger man. I told him I know that he is, because I'm not just seeing things, right? These things are all consistent, and they all go to one thing. Can you
briefly summarize any interactions you've had with Andrew? And
please, no, I don't speak to him like that. I just told him, like, you're the trigger man, Andrew, and that was it. But then I just stopped talking to him. Like, I just let him go, and then he finally, like, stopped fucking trying to reach out to me because.
Okay. We did have rules shared in advance of this stream. We're not using profanity in the stream. Clyde, you were muted. You are now unmuted. Please proceed.
Oh, I'm so deeply sorry, man. I do apologize for that. I am sorry. Yeah, but I didn't want to talk to him, so I kind of just don't bother me. If every time you bother me, I'm gonna share this stuff out, and anytime he messaged me, I would just share that stuff, and that's all. But yeah,
so you're saying that Andrew was bothering you.
Not bothering me. I won't put it like that.
As you were claiming that he, you know,
no, I
off
yeah,
Charlie.
That's just what my opinion is based off of everything that I can see. I am not nobody, and I am not saying that for sure.
How many messages?
Okay, so I just want to make that clear. But why else would he do that? Like, what he was trying to persuade me, it seems like, just like, I'm just a regular guy, like, in God, and like.
How many messages did Andrew send to you?
He never messaged me. He never messaged me. It was just on listen, he didn't message me personally. It was just on the comment section, and that's one thing that I knew that he probably knew better to, and I would never respond back if he did.
The comment section of what?
Videos, I guess. It was whether it was my video or not, just here on X.
So it wasn't even your video?
I don't remember.
X or TikTok or YouTube?
X,
what?
Nah, he's never messaged me on TikTok, just X. He didn't message me though. Like, what I mean by message, I meant the comment section. He left a comment. So he didn't personally reach out to me, and I want to make that clear.
All right.
Okay.
I do want to briefly.
I just want to make it clear though that, like, accusing someone of, you know, of taking someone out is a really big deal. It's not anything that should be taken lightly, and so, you know, like.
And I'm telling you, I did. You know,
like, these are people's lives that we're talking about here. So
yeah, and he, you know what, that's fine, because he's never told me anything about oh, actually he did. He said, I can get you for defamation of character. I was like, well, go ahead. I don't really care. That's great. Because if the FBI is not going to do their job and these fucking people, oh my God, excuse me. I'm sorry, dude. Like,
Okay.
I got to go. I really enjoyed it speaking to you guys, and I do appreciate it. And I apologize that I just not able to convey, and I don't want to get into anything about Andrew because
Okay. Thank you, Clyde.
You know,
thank you. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time. Thank you for the conversation. We are going to remove you now. Thanks for coming on. Bye. Okay, he is off now. I will briefly defend DO5162. I don't know who that is. Maybe they do make rifles. I have no idea. I'm not going to assert whether they do or do not make rifles. Anyway, this program is not making any allegations against anyone. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect my own views or opinions or Kelly's views or opinions. I'll put that disclaimer right there.
Yeah. And if anyone would like to, in defense of Andrew, if I've done a lengthy interview with Andrew Ferrazzi myself, so you know, I can link that in the description of this once we wrap up. You know, you feel free to do your own research. I think Jordan and I always encourage people to do their own research, but you know, it's a very serious allegation that was made. So I personally did not reach, you know, that conclusion. And so I feel that I need to share that. So
yeah, this is a real criminal case.
Yeah.
This is a real criminal case. I don't think anybody actually died, but
exactly. Neither do I.
So, okay, we are now at 3 hours. We got through both guests, which is terrific. Got through a lot of questions from the audience, and I think we had a couple good conversations there. So we're going to go ahead and close out now. Thank you, Kelly, for your time. I appreciate your help in this, and maybe sometime we'll get some other guests with some other theories, and we can do it sometime again with a couple other theories. Right. So if you were in the audience, go ahead.
Oh, we've got a lot of, you know, Monday morning quarterbacks in the audience. So I think that means there's a lot of folks who could potentially be ready and raring to go on another stream. So yeah, as you were saying, like,
you can find me on X. You can find both of us on YouTube and X, and reach out to us there if you would like to come on some other time and do better than these people if you feel like that should be done. So thank you again, Kelly, for coming on. I appreciate your time, especially today. And we're going to go ahead and close out. Goodbye. Good night.